know. You're the first racer, though.
I'm proud. I'm super proud of that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Cool. Well, we can do the intro. We can open up with that, but we'll do the intro now. So welcome to another episode of Unclicked.
Jason Richardson,
Dr. J.
Dr. J.
Yeah.
Dr. J. Rich. Yeah. Doctor.
Shout out to Dale. Shout out to Source for always supporting us. And
we got sponsors.
Shout out.
I like awesome sponsors too.
And so
Dale's keeps it flowing, and Source keeps the bike.
This might be the first time I drink on camera.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Well,
it might. I'm like really thinking.
You're not obligated.
I know, but
you don't have to.
It does look good. I get to talking, and then my throat gets dry, so I might. And I'm of drinking age, so.
You are?
Yeah.
Twice.
Okay. Just barely. Yeah, twice. More than twice. Twice plus 4.
Well,
well, sweet. First time. You're a psychologist too?
Correct.
Yeah.
Psychologist
and a racer.
Correct. I do not prescribe medicine.
Yeah.
But my advice is generally pretty bitchin'.
That's what's up.
I'm excited for this podcast. So I want to learn a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah. So what this all came about, like the Instagram. I saw on Instagram, and I feel like mental health is just such a huge topic on here. I mean, we just had Tyler on. I mean, we've had Dakota on over the years. There's Ricani recently about just the struggles of being a pro at a young age and dealing with worldview and all that stuff. And I saw one of your videos.
In general are just kind of wild-minded usually.
Yeah.
Like we're different.
Yeah.
We don't just do the normal things. We're out at the racetracks going as fast as we can, or we're in alleyways with our friends grinding a ledge. Like it's kind of it's different.
I mean, most people look at it like a bad decision, right? BMX. Like,
kinda.
Because bikes are like, oh, how far did you ride?
There's a lot of people
I don't know.
A lot of times as a kid, they'll like say like, oh, they look at you weird. Like, how long are you going to do that? You know, like, why would you tell that to a kid?
No, they still do. Even there's people in my family, especially on my mom's side, because my mom's from Pakistan. So, and Indian, Pakistanis, they tend to be conservative and a little bit more like, okay, you go to school and you do this. And like, they look at me like an alien. Like I ride a bike. I like to snowboard. So, and then even in general, people look at, my family looks at me like an alien because I chose to ride a bike for a living.
And how long were you a professional bike rider? 20 years ish?
No. Thanks. That's good. No, 92. I was a senior in high school.
Okay.
And I thought I had to quit because I was starting college. So I'm like, I might as well turn pro. Just to say I turned pro.
Yeah.
And do like the A pro thing and just, whatever. Just say I turned pro and then start school and quit. So 92, but I kind of just like dicked around a little bit in A pro. Didn't take it too serious, whatever. Got to college and then I was thinking, man, really don't want to go back to Vegas and work construction. So, and then Auburn, which was a GT subsidiary company, that said, well, you only got 5 races this year. So I was like, damn, I only got 5 races to turn AA. So I made that happen. But by then I was in San Diego.
Okay.
So 93 was like my first year as a AA pro. So I say 93 to 2008.
Okay. Yeah.
So
that's
15 years.
That's almost 20. All right.
Yeah.
And then if you count 92, that's 16, and you round up, that's 20.
Yeah. So here's the crazy part. So my
better part of it.
So I've raced. I'm looking at your wall. I've raced Todd Lyons a lot.
Yeah.
Todd Lyons is a racer technically.
Yeah.
So so one of my proudest moments.
Then everyone's kind of technically a racer.
We're jumping around.
Races.
One of my proudest moments is I made the X Games main event. Super stoked. Not my necessarily type of racing. Made the proudest moment. One of the worst things about the fact that I made that main was Todd Lyons got 4th and I got 5th.
Eat you up inside.
It just only because it's Todd. I'm actually okay with 5th. The X Games, I'll take it.
Yeah.
It's street cred, whatever. But and I didn't, it's not necessarily my jams, the downhill tracks. But
that was crazy though.
But if you got to know Todd, like there was a race in Colombia. Just a little quick Todd story.
Sure.
We're all going out, and I didn't drink, and so like even now, if I drink, it's like one drink with food usually. So that's what I'm like. I don't know if I should drink on camera, but anyways, so he goes out. We go out, right? And aguardiente is the thing in Colombia, Bogota, Colombia. It's I don't know what it is, but it's pretty foul stuff. It's like you could
like some
you
liquor.
Could pour, you run out of gas, you pour it in your car, it'll start your car. Like it's that drunk. Anyways, so we're getting airport time. You know how that works. And then he's still sleeping. He won't get up. Anyways, long story bearable. I get him up. I get him to the airport. He's like in front of line. I'm like essentially kind of like holding him up. And that dickhead took the last freaking upgrade. So then he turns to me, he's like, and I was like, so,
Turbo Toad.
So the Turbo Toad, I help him catch the plane, and then he takes the last first class.
God damn it.
Anyways, first world problem. So 15 years as a pro, but my first race, I mean, I was on the gate with like Gary Ellis, Charles Townsend, Pete Lunkarevich.
Pistol.
Yep. And my last, in 2008, I was racing like Mare Strombergs. So I have a pretty good span.
Double gold?
Yeah, he's double gold medalist. So, I think maybe as of, I don't know, 4-ish years ago, there's people that were in the class now that I have not raced, but it was a pretty good while where like, even though I had stopped, there were still some people racing for several years after. So I'm
staying
proud.
pro that long in racing, is that's not that common, is it? That's a long career.
No.
Is it about the same as, would you think, freestyle, or is it even shorter? Oh God, I'm not talking to you. I'm talking to Jason. Shush.
So staying pro that long, I missed it because I was listening to Siri.
Like staying that freestyle,
longevity,
I feel like, pro,
like that.
like if you make it a decade, it's like that's a nice career.
That's a good run.
So that's the same
right?
for racing.
Yeah, totally. I think pro in anything, and being, I'm not going to say paid, but definitely being like somewhat relevant. I mean, I'm proud of it.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
You know, stuck with it through the ups and downs. I had some good contracts, some not so good ones. I deserve some good ones, and I deserve some not so good ones. But yeah, 15 years is a long time. And luckily, I so school was kind of like, I don't want to say it was my backup plan, but school was my excuse to keep me racing.
So you wouldn't have to go back to school.
No, so as long as I was in school, like racing was kind of like safe to do. Because I had this, you know, it was just this, I don't want to say it was a game I played with myself. Like at first I went to college because that's what was expected. I got a degree in philosophy. There's no philosophy companies. So, you know.
Yeah.
But then I had graduated school and racing was great. I was riding for Giant or Mosh back then, it was the same company. Teammates with John Tomac and getting paid and bought a house, had trails in my house. So I was like doing the BMX thing in California.
The dream.
Like literally living the dream. Like Jersey, Vegas, Cali, I win. Done. Right? Like we were even getting sent Red Bull. Believe it or not.
Days,
nobody even knew what it was.
Yeah.
Like, what is this stuff? I don't know. It's like carbonated cough syrup. It's supposed to give you energy. But yeah, so that was the deal. But then let's see. So graduated college, and I was racing. And then that was actually my worst year, was the year I graduated college and had nothing to do, using air quotes.
Just idle hands?
Like I'm like just kind of resting on my laurels, kicking it, hanging out.
Like I arrived, I'm
being
here.
The pro, you know, just trying to maintain whatever that is, and but kind of flailing. And then I went back and got my master's in business, then kept racing.
So you only didn't go to school that one season?
I didn't go to school 97. Yeah, 97. And then I went back in 98 to get my master's. I graduated college in 97. Took me 5 years because I was racing. Graduated in 97. Went back in 98. Graduated with my MBA in 2000. And then took a long time before I went back to school to get my doctorate in psychology. 8 years of being
pro without school at that point.
Yeah, but at that point I had grown. I met my wife.
Knew how to manage your time, probably.
Knew how to manage my time. Knew how do I say this?
That's amazing, though, pro racer and doing college. Because don't know many people who do that in freestyle. Austin Coleman,
There's more people now, though. I'm happy to say there's more people now, or in general. Like,
there's nobody.
Because in racing,
freestyle.
Actually, Nikita Ducaro.
Okay, I was going to say. I just don't
Nikita's
know
going to college.
She went.
She
went and graduated. Like,
wow.
There's probably way more than I think.
She just like knocked that off on the way to the Olympic medal. Yeah. So there's a lot more people, and it's cool now because there's different ways to go to school.
Yeah.
Back then it was brick and mortar.
Yeah.
So I had to like rock up to an actual classroom.
I think that's the gnarly thing, is to think about juggling that and maintaining, you know, magazines and that coverage and those sponsor obligations and all that stuff. I feel like is, you know, I mean, Gary tried the same thing. He's like, I'm gonna do both, and then he's like, I can't.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm gonna go with bike riding.
It's super hard, and even now, like,
I think Kaczynski and Kaczynski got his degree.
Yeah.
I hate that I said that because so many people probably.
No, but I mean, over the years, it's not that many.
I mean, no, your odd. Yeah. I mean, the odds of. I mean, I sort of say the odds, but the ratio of people going to school and racing or doing this other thing is relatively low.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not the norm unless you're like in a collegiate sport.
So when you got the master's, what was that in?
Global management. So that's an MBA.
Okay.
It was the least. It was the least math MBA.
Yeah.
And it was business, so it was applicable. But the interesting thing was, I probably about halfway through, I'm like, you guys are teaching me how to work for somebody else. Like, because at that time I saw myself more as an entrepreneur doing my own thing. I kind of always figured I could plug myself back into the industry and have an industry job of sorts, but I wasn't necessarily going for that.
Yeah.
But it was valuable. I started it, I finished it. And then what happened? So I graduated in 2000, and then racing got really good again, results wise. I just changed my training. I started training better and smarter. Met my wife, or my then fiance. So, things just started clicking better racing wise. Even though the sponsorship and the coverage, that's when coverage was weird because it was like, there's kind of magazines, but kind of not. We have the internet, but there's no.
The battle.
There's no influence kind of culture yet. So a lot of my best years were like, I don't want to say in the dark, but just kind of there. But it.
And were you essentially like a free? Not
so
like
I was kind of so I got dropped from
contractor.
So I got dropped from. So I rode for TNT. Shout out Mark Zalewski and FAM and Jersey. So when I got off Auburn, Mark took a shot on me, and he was like, "Okay, well, we can get you to the races." I'm like, "All right." So I lived in my buddy's attic space.
Yeah.
It was just a crawl space,
Like
exposed insulation, everything.
All the wiring.
Yeah. Like I put a futon in there, and I hung a rope to hang my clothes, and got plastic bins from undies.
What year is this? This is after school?
This is 90. Yeah, so this is this is summer of 93.
So only all the fiberglass.
The
fiberglass stayed out of the.
Okay.
This is the beginning. Yeah, this is the beginning.
I thought you bought a house. What the hell happened?
Yeah, that's 97.
Okay.
That's 97. Okay. Right.
I thought we were in the 2000s.
Yeah, we're jumping around. We're jumping around.
How'd you end up in an attic, man?
Yeah, I chose to live in that attic because I didn't want to work construction.
So it makes sense. Yeah.
Right. So I just would use my money that I made at a race to go to the next one. But then I got a pay raise, $200 a month, and all expenses paid, TNT, and then boom, it was on. Did really well. The World Championships were in the U.S. at the time. Made both finals. I won on cruiser, so that was cool. And then and Danny Nelson won class, and the cool thing about that, we were the two youngest guys in the class at the time, so that was kind of cool.
Next gen.
Yeah. And then a guy by the name of Bill Grad, he said, "Hey, this the mountain bike companies are getting back in the thing." He worked for ODI. And so he said Giant was start having a BMX bike. So he helped me put together a proposal, and then boom, big contract. So I went from making like $200 a month to a lot a month.
And was that Mosh, or was it actually Giant bike?
That was
okay.
Mosh.
Right.
That was their brand, their core brand.
Yeah.
And at the time, I was bleaching my hair and stuff, so I looked the part. Even though I'm kind of punk rock attitude, but I'm not Neil Wood. Like Neil Wood would have been the better pick for Mosh. Anyways, but I looked the part, and it was great. And but then I got dropped in 2000. So to your question about that, I was kind of a free agent. I rode for like MCS. I rode for like a French team, but then my results were getting really good, or much better. I started winning more, or scratching at more wins. And then I rode for a company called Krupe BMX. And then I was teammates with Christian Besserine, and we just went on
was like the cool guys.
Yeah, we just went on a tear. Like we made like most every final. I was up for the title. I made all the world's mains. Like it was just a really good year. And then by then I'm a dad, and I remember walking with my baby in the stroller, and I get a phone call. Boom! It was Haro, and it was funny. So from like that second year on Krupe, which was 2005, I kind of was just like entering each year, going, okay, maybe this will be it. Maybe this will be it. And then Haro called, and it was like 2 years. I'm getting, it wasn't a lot, but I was getting like a decent salary. And I called my wife. I'm like, you think we got another 2 years in us? Because the whole question,
you're in San Diego, they're in San Diego, so
it was just great,
good.
but it was just pretty funny because like everyone known, I was always the guy who went to school. So they're like, so my family at this point, they were looking at me an alien because I was riding BMX. At this point, they're looking at me an alien because I'm riding BMX at the age of 30, you know? And they're like, and they just kept saying, how long is he going to race? How long is he going to do this? Because to them, it was just like,
you have this degree. And
how long are you going to do this?
Yeah.
So I kept it rolling, and I broke my leg in 2006, and my femur. And it's let's see. So it's teammates with Derek Betcher.
Nice.
Yeah, he helped me out though. He helped me out that weekend. Broke my leg, but I didn't want to quit and go out with that injury, even though I thought it was kind of done, and nobody would have been surprised if I did because I was the old guy in the class.
It's hard to go out on that as like your last race.
Yeah, I didn't want to be forced out. I figured, well, I'm going to get myself up to racing again, and then if I can't, then so be it. But it's going to be...
At least you go out like having fun and doing it.
But my decision.
Yeah.
Right? I love the word agency, right? And I wanted agency over it. So, again, looked at like an alien, like you're going to do that again.
Oh, right.
But that was pretty hard because my wife was really scared at that point because it's like, I don't know if we can do that again.
Because you had a baby at this time.
I had a baby. Well, yeah. I mean, that's a pretty big.
Dennis can relate.
You laid on your ass.
Yeah, exactly. It's surgery. It's a flight. It's she had to fly to Oklahoma.
Oh wow.
Come pick me up, and then I'm in Oklahoma, and I got a colostomy bag, and it's like just. It's gross,
not fun.
right? It's like not fun, and then I get home and I'm useless.
It checks you.
There's a little baby here at the home, and I'm useless, and her mom comes down, so it's like, you're gonna race again? Really? You're gonna that's your choice?
Yeah,
for sure.
And she's amazing because I literally, she let me straight up. And then I shut it down in 2008. But that leg break was important because on my way back, like the second race back, I sat next to a couple, and they were coming from a convention, and they were psychologists. And I was like, what does it take to do this? And what does it take to do that? And they were explaining me the timeline, and then I started thinking to myself, well, I worked with a sports psychologist, and I'm thinking, man, there's not many BMX racers or pro athletes who probably became psychologists. And I was like, I'd probably be the perfect person. So I literally went back
light bulb moment.
It was a light bulb moment. And then it was October, and I remember flying back from New Mexico, and that January I was in school. Boom. And it was just like, okay, you the road to be Dr. Jason, and then plug myself back in the sport and be the air quote action sport guy. And it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
I mean, it worked out.
How much schooling? How many years of schooling was that?
So that was 3.5 more ish.
Wow.
But the good news was
so much school.
But it was 2000. But I had this Haro contract. So I'm on the plane thinking, well, I got a year on this contract, and I already gotten my master's before. So I'm like, okay, I've done this.
Yeah.
And by this time, school was a little bit different. There's some online versions. So I was a great student. One, I was motivated. Two, on those plane flights, you got time. I'm like, I'll read this.
Yeah.
I'll write that paper. And it was just...
I'll listen to a 5-hour Magoo podcast.
Exactly. But I was able to really dig in. And then the other thing, too, was I had worked with a sports psychologist throughout my career. Because 97 was rough, let me tell you, from an athlete standpoint. And so
Was 97 when you got dropped?
99, but 97 was my worst year.
Okay.
And managed to talk him into keeping me around for 2.5 years. But it was rough. And so, I got a lot of tools and a lot of skill sets working with Dr. Warren, but it was cool to read this stuff and reverse engineer all, it's kind of like, oh, that's what that fool did. Oh, that's what we were talking about when he said this. And this is why he was asking me about this. And this is understanding how the breathing worked, understanding how the visualization worked, understanding why he was asking me about, my dad or my family, all those kinds of things, just how to kind of set up the race plan.
And how'd you find him? Was he through a team or something?
Yellow Book. 97, okay? I don't know what race I came back from, but I was frustrated, getting smoked, watching the main event, and just phone book.
How, was it something that you knew, you had the speed, but your mindset was screwing you over or something?
I had the speed. I mean, the truth, at the end of the day...
How do you come to, I need a psychologist?
Because it wasn't working. Because I went from being a guy who was consistently... I mean, at least for me, I was consistently in the main to being like maybe making the mains, and I was just
as a pro. That's nice.
I became super inconsistent.
Yeah,
and I also had one of the better contracts with one of like probably the biggest bike company. It wasn't GTE, but globally, Giant is a player.
Yeah, they were the biggest.
Right.
Bike company
I mean, they
in the
made
world.
bikes for Specialized. They made bikes for Trek. They made, so it was
at that point. I'm pretty sure they were the biggest manufacturer.
And if you knew how much they paid John Tomac back in the day. I mean, I don't know exactly, but I heard like multiples of six figures, not just like a hundo. Like it was
big contract,
big, right? Like
they had Corey Bowen at that same time too, and he had to be one of the like most sought after BMXers
exactly.
when they had him.
Right.
So I'm sure he had a crazy contract as well.
Yeah. So some on the top end of this thing, I'm basically embarrassing myself out there.
The other guys know you got that sick contract too.
Well, I mean, we were all doing pretty well.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
But it was cool. It was cool.
But not make the main, you probably feel.
But it's like you're not in the main. I got
job.
Bleached hair or green hair, and I'm watching the main event, so it looks even worse. It's like, oh, you didn't make the main, Jason. We see you.
Yeah.
Because you have green hair on the infield, as Gary Ellis is winning the main, right? So just my marketing was good until it wasn't.
Yeah.
Anyways,
and you couldn't do the backflip like Todd. So.
no, and I had no backflip. Like I was,
you had to be in the mains.
I was
can't be sitting on the infield.
I was paid to get to the first turn, top 3,
okay,
and finish 4th or better. Period.
Yeah,
that's racing. I had to accept that, and I actually took something of me to accept.
Yeah,
because I didn't want to accept it.
Yeah,
I thought I could get by on image, and I thought I can get by on being cool, and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, as a racer, your job's to race.
Yeah, first you last.
Well, if you're not in the mix,
fourth you last.
But you're not in the mix. You're not in the mix, right?
No.
And so accepting that, but that, I had a lot of growing up to do, and so Dr. Warren helped me do that, and gave me some very specific skills, but.
Super smart of you to reach out to that.
Well, desperate, but thank you.
Yeah.
Well, smart too though, because a lot of desperate people wouldn't have thought of it.
How old are you at that time? I mean,
I was 20 in 94, so call me 23.
I mean, I think at 23, I would.
You're smart.
I would. Yeah, I would never be mature enough to be like, hey, I need to talk to somebody about this. I think I would be like, I need to punch a wall and freak out and force and hate myself until I get better or something.
I have no idea.
Sure.
That's
what I'm saying.
Yeah,
23.
I have no idea where the idea came from.
Yeah.
Either, because it was just like sports psychologist. I have
you
no
say you
idea
just picked
where
the
it
yellow
came
book
from.
up. It's like
but it was the yellow pages. It was yellow
that.
pages, and I looked up psychologist. Tried to find sports psychologist. I don't think that was there, and I don't know. I think sometimes with. Like the yellow pages, they would have like a little blurb, like a couple sentences, and not many people even had that. So I rocked up to La Jolla, paid full retail to go see a person. Yeah, dude. But that's where he was. I mean, I didn't know. It's just like that's what I did.
Yeah.
But how crazy is that? And I could tell you that that the contract was so good that I was able to pay for that weekly.
Yeah.
For on and off for years. Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I mean, it was.
So you had, I guess.
So okay. So then there's the performance side, but there's actually like the Jason side, right? Because Jason has a life and a story and all this other stuff. Sorry, I'm talking in the third person.
Who's Jason?
I'm not Mike Tyson at all. But so yeah, it was not only super helpful from a performance side, but it's super helpful from a self-awareness and just a personal growth side too. Because there were some things to work out. Like with me and who I was and the kind of man I wanted to be. And so all of that led to me, I don't want to say having it figured out, but having a lot of it worked out towards the, kind of like 2000 to 2006 time, even 8. And so I just, going to, becoming a psychologist seemed to work. And so going to back to the school and studying, it was like, I got to see how this guy worked with me.
Yeah.
And so I got to reverse engineer not only my failures and successes as an athlete, but also kind of dig into how this person worked with me.
Yeah.
And then figure out, okay, like to take that and apply it to these future clients that I would have who might be racing, might be surfing, might be motoing, might be even like professional executive person guy, right? But, so like I remember running a retirement group and like, well, these people who are in retirement age, definitely like 60 plus, like getting ready for retirement. They look at me like, what do you know about retirement? I'm like, let me tell you something. It's one thing to be old at 65, but it's another thing to be old at 28.
Yeah.
Right. So
I already retired.
Yeah, exactly. I already dealt with a career change. I already dealt with rebuilding myself. I already dealt with being irrelevant. I already dealt with, and they were like, okay, so that was kind of cool to understand that on that level.
It's got to work well. I mean, this is a little an aside to it, but like when you say like, hey, I am former professional athlete with all these accolades, world champion, etc., and you go in a room, it's like it commands a presence, I assume, when you're dealing with an executive type person that doesn't know.
Yeah.
already.
So, I mean, I figured with psychology, and it's funny, I was doing the math on the plane with these people. I'm like, okay, I can plug myself back in. I can market myself just like I used to do back in the day, like get my little dossier, my little portfolio together, kind of, and pitch myself to future clients as like I would a sponsor. So I knew I was going to do the sports thing. I figured I might be able to write, I might be able to teach, that kind of thing. But I figured it gave me enough openings. But what happened was my buddy was like an assistant coach at one of the private high schools here. He said, hey, can you come do a team talk? Sure. Favor for a friend. So I come there and I talk to these kids, and they're just kind of like high school kids, like, okay, what do you got to say? And then, I let them have it. And then the coach was like, I don't think I've ever heard anyone talk about sports and performance like that. Can you come back and talk to our parent group?
Yeah.
I'm like, sure. He's like, how much would that cost? I'm like, I don't know, $500? Like nothing.
Yeah.
Because this is the type of school where kids roll up in Ferraris and Mercedes. But whatever. Favor for a friend. So I go give the talk. Knock it out of the park. And it's just like, brain, performance, a little bit of Jason, a little bit of school stuff, just kind of like how we see it happen. Or how my take on this whole thing, right? Plus some education. And then I get a phone call from some person it was someone who was affiliated with Moto, like knew Stefan Roncada somehow, some way. And so and they introduced me to someone else. Next thing you know, I'm on the plane going to Dallas, and I'm talking to some people at Audi. So when they come up with a new car or new car, new features, they have the salespeople go through this course. Sorry.
You're good.
They have the salespeople go through this, through a course, and they make it like a huge production.
Yeah.
So they like rented out this old broken down mall and repurposed it and had all these stations, and they're like, and I was auditioning though. I didn't get paid. They're like, oh, can you come out and do this? Because we might want to have you talk to these other people.
Yeah. And
so they flew me out, and just basically sitting in front of Audi designers, like the people who design the cars, like, okay, we got Jason Richardson. He's a professional, blah, blah, blah. And he's going to tell you some words he's got some things to say.
Yeah.
I had nothing to say, really.
Yeah.
But it was like 5 minutes. Boom, I was on, it worked. I had this really great story about how I borrowed my buddy's car, and I was I was in the mountains, and then it was snowing, and I was lucky I was in an A4 all road, and so they were stoked on that, and then just like, yeah, and like, so I just kind of went
parlayed it into
I parlayed it because I just happened to be somewhat of a car guy, and then next thing you know, they're like, hey, we need you to come out to not to California, to LA and Lexus College. So this is where they have their training people go, execs and everybody. And this was like a proper deal. And that was like a $3,000 day. I'm like, okay.
So this is essentially motivational.
Yeah. So
speaking,
now
right?
I'm like, speak. Yeah. So now it's
this
like
is all
not
right
only
in the
my
beginning.
Yeah.
Correct?
Yeah.
This is
Good and bad that I was right in the beginning. But yeah.
crazy though.
the sudden success.
Yeah, it's like, right. Yeah. Sophomore album was a biatch. Second album didn't hit so good.
Yeah.
But it was cool. So that opened my world up to not only just sports, but it really mapped on well with business, executive coaching, because it's performance based. And so, yes, if you have a story, and usually sports stories work well, that goes by well because people, especially in this business world, want to win.
Yeah.
And they want to know that you have real experience.
Right.
Yeah.
Real experience is huge.
Right.
And
So
going through the whole race career was
so the whole race career,
great
and
for
then
this.
and all of that. So then it became, I should say my business expanded into more speaking, and I was working with athletes and executives.
So so when you graduate, you started in 2008.
Yep.
To get
So I
the degree
graduated
in 2011.
So I technically is 7.
Okay.
So broke my leg in 6, January of 2007, back in school, doctored in 10, licensed in 11, and on the plane to the Olympics in 12.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what happens? So you call it in for professional racing in 2008.
Yep.
And you're like, are you still Dr. J? You know, like
Not,
where
I'm not.
where does it?
So I knew it was coming to an end. So
that transition from retirement.
I wasn't riding for so 2007. Tony D sent me an email letting me know my contract wasn't going to be renewed. Me and Tony are great friends.
Yeah. Shout out Tony D.
Shout out Tony D. Thanks for the email.
Did you ever deal with Tony D? Yeah, of course.
Of course he did.
Never mind. That was as soon as I was.
Anybody who's
I was literally saying Tony, and I'm like, you know,
touched
what is
a Haro has dealt with Tony D.
Yeah.
In some ways, he's actually like a little more Haro than Haro sometimes. It's the weirdest thing, but
pretty sure he got me on.
Luckily, Bob doesn't watch a podcast.
No, but
so.
but but you know what?
He wouldn't like that.
Bob and Tony D, like
boys.
Yeah, they are boys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, he's just
shout out Tony D.
But Tony has been like the Haro, like it's actually weird that he's kind of not with him.
Yeah.
Honestly. Anyway, so I got the email from them, so I wasn't riding for them. So 2008 was kind of funky. I rode for some bike shop. Pete Delusky helped me out with, it was at the time Intense BMX.
Yeah.
And I just kind of knew it was coming towards the end, and it was kind of a weird place because once you get to a certain amount of hours in the schooling, you can start working or interning.
Mm-hmm.
The question is, could you find an internship for money?
Yeah.
And I was used to making a little bit of money riding, so I was like kind of going from something to nothing. I was like, okay, well, maybe I'll just rock up and just be the Starbucks barista and finish school. Like, if that's what I got to do, that's what I do. I remember calling Chris Muller. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, you think you could make me a race bike? And I was just going to kind of race if I could and then work and then get my hours and whatever. But as I was looking for an internship, I just found this random job. It was like brand manager. It had like a big psychology, like it had this big weight on psychology because they did like they did interventions. So they would go in and do like an anti-smoking campaign, like behavioral changes. So that's like was the marketing firm, and so they had these brands that would implement these behavioral changes on a large scale, like social stuff. So like after school programs with high schools, I'm like, I think I can do that job. So I just was like just filling out the application, just answering the questions, like, whatever. Like super just honest, raw answers.
Yeah.
Next thing I know, boom, I got an interview. So I'm going downtown San Diego, and it's like October. Nice suit. And I did well. And then I'm on the gate at the ABA Grands, like second moto. And I'm like, I think I'm gonna get that job. Literally, it's like that's. I just had a feeling. I'm like, I'm gonna get that job.
Yeah.
They're gonna give me that job. And then that was it.
Yeah.
Like I finished NBL. So I finished 2008, number 3 pro in NBL.
Damn. Finished.
I'm on fumes, dude. Though, but honestly, like I was on fumes. Like the writing was on the wall. I was good, but it wasn't like I was good all the time. Like I just knew how to capitalize on a good day, if that makes sense. Okay.
Third overall,
pro
though.
shit, though.
Yeah.
There's a lesson in there, but
it was taking everything.
But it was definitely like I was like I don't know that I want to commit to this anymore.
The fun was getting
it was just a
minimal.
lot. It was a lot. Like even if I that finishing third overall was great because it was a good check, and it was also like it was a good way to kind of go out, and I kind of knew
better than the broken leg,
right?
Go
and
out
then
on the third place overall.
and then ABA, I just kind of rode that out. It was just like whatever. There's like the fall nationals, this, that, or the other. And then I was at the Grands. I didn't even like make it out of the motos. And then I got a phone call, and then next thing you know, I got the job offer. I got the job. So first job out of the box, brand manager.
So you never even
at a marketing
you didn't
company.
even ever have to have that scary time. Of
No, brand manager
jelly.
at a marketing company. I'm like in a suit in Chicago in some high rise, talking to like the Chicago blah 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 school district about after school programs and marketing and branding, and I'm like,
it's crazy,
right? And then it was,
I'm laughing. I'm laughing
hilarious.
because I feel like it's because you are so personable, well spoken, had cameras in front of you for years. That whole thing, like it's like impossible for you to fail a job interview. You could be like, well, Jason, apply for this job, and their credentials are fucking QRS. And he's like, well, I got XYZ, but let me tell you about XYZ. And you're like, well, we'll change the job for you, Jason. It's all right.
I've known you for like 15 minutes now, and I want you a part of something I'm doing. Yeah,
exactly.
So it's funny. We could get into that later because there's this whole. I'm trained in personality assessment, and it's like my jam. And then
personality assessment.
Yeah, personality assessment.
We'll do that later. Yeah. He'll assess our personality.
But there's also like you can.
There's going to say I'm an actor. Yeah. This isn't how I.
No, there's another assessment you do
where, CIA
where you learn your strengths. Where you learn your strengths. Cool. And some people have strengths in relational areas. Some people have strengths. Some people have strengths that are more like learning or executing things. So mine, and then some people have strengths in influencing. So 3 of my strengths are in influencing.
Okay.
Yeah. And then one's in like execution, which is achievement. And then so bottom line is, I think I prefer interviewing more than even the work. Like it's fun for me when just ask me anything, I'm ready.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I was in there with the school district, some Chicago school district in the high rise, and so worked that job. And then when it became time to actually intern and like start psychologizing, I applied to Southern Indian Health Council. So I was driving 53 miles one way out in Alpine.
Yeah,
and but it was cool. It was a paid gig.
Yeah,
and I started earning my hours, and then to get licensed. And then as soon as I could get licensed, boom, like. It was like, okay, how fast can I get my website built? Huh?
These sweet jobs were while you were still becoming a doctor.
The brand manager one was kind of a sweet job. I mean, it's from a title standpoint.
Let's just say you go from Pro BMX to like paying real jobs, but you still aren't the doctor yet. You're still working.
No, I'm still working on it. Right.
Insane.
Yeah.
Who's your first like client as a sports psychologist? I mean, you can't say their name, I assume. But.
So it was a bit of an unfair advantage in that. I was very known and trusted, but so there was a few guys I raced that, and thankfully, and I'm so grateful for them. They took a chance on me too, right? Because like they know me as a racer, and the dude who was sharing the hotel room with them every now and then.
Yeah.
But they took a chance on me. So yeah, I mean, I'll say it just because they've said it, but.
Okay.
So. I've worked with. Yeah. So it was nice to be trusted and, help them, get to an Olympics or help them.
They were all in the beginning?
Yeah. I mean, didn't need my help at the first one, but the second one we worked a little bit together.
You worked with all them at that Olympics?
Not the first one, because 2008 I was still racing.
Yeah. Okay, I mean, the first Olympics you went to as a psychologist.
And then 12, yeah. So 12 I was working with.
So your first like kind of official psychology gig is the Olympics?
No, my first official psychology gig was
Alpine.
Yeah, it was like Alpine. I'm what they call a psych assistant. That's fancy word for an intern.
Okay.
But then when I was licensed, I started working in private with a fellow by the name of Dr. Rob Irwin. And he worked with a lot of golfers, did neurofeedback, so he was kind of on the cutting edge of things and where I wanted to be. He was in North County, so it was closer to home. And then as soon as I was licensed, it was like, okay, how quick can I open up my own doors, have my own place? And so a lot of the top guys and girls, women, excuse me, they sought me out.
Yeah,
they sought me out, but we connected and we worked together.
So like somebody like. Or what does he come to you with? I think
all of it. So without getting too much into anyone's story specifically, I think all of it is I'm going to oversimplify it. Totally going to oversimplify it. There's a blend of some form of anxiety, right? Around how am I going to do, right? And you can call it performance anxiety, but some form of performance anxiety. And then on top of that, there's like who this person is. So what else is going on in your life that might be interfering with the performance? I'm going to be very specific with my words, with the performance you say you want. And that's the space that's the sandbox that we work in. That's the sandbox that we work in. Like I said, with myself, there was like me learning how to better prepare mentally to race and what that meant. But then there was this other side where it's like, I probably should work out some things with myself so that I can like show up better.
Okay.
And by the way, not all that stuff needs to be worked out straight up. Like there's some stuff, it's like when we're working sports psych stuff, there's some personal stuff where it's like, all right, like I got it in the file cabinet and it's like keeping it in a space that's, we'll just say, I don't want to say safe, but like that's fine enough so that you can go do your thing. but
some stuff you're never going to fix.
Right. Well, not even fix, but just it just might not be time to address it.
Okay. Yeah.
Right.
There's stuff that probably has to be addressed to make your performance better. There's some stuff like, I know about that, but
how? I mean, I'm not on your guys' level. So how does?
Yes, you are.
No, I mean, like, it's hard to understand. I mean, I guess if you don't feel good or if you're in a bad mood, you don't ride bikes as well as you normally do, and you have things affecting you.
Or you ride better though.
Yeah, there's sometimes it's a little bit of
out with riding?
a little bit of both, but I don't understand sometimes that connection between childhood.
Well, it's not necessarily childhood.
Yeah,
but it could be, right?
Yeah, some people kind of like ride their
trauma.
Whatever.
Right. So trauma.
He's got the answers.
Yeah.
So you said how you can be in a bad mood and ride your bike well, and then you said, well, you could be.
Yeah.
So and you're both right.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's the thing. Usually athletes are high performing people. Mm-hmm. They tend to get rigid in how things are done. And that makes sense to a degree because there is a certain amount of discipline and protocol and routine you want. And that's good. Mm-hmm. It's safe. What happens is our brain likes to make a rule that says, oh, if I wear my red socks, then I will win. If I feel confident, then I will go fast. Mm-hmm. If I'm in a good mood, then I can compete at my best. And then once you have that hard rule set going, if something falls outside of that, then your game plan might be off.
Yeah.
Right? So I like the routines, but how can we develop a routine? And how can we maintain the discipline and change the rules so that, man, I hate this track and they're ripping us off and still be in the hunt for the win.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Still want it.
Right. So the truth is you can be in a bad mood and still win. It might not be preferable, but it's not needed. Right. So it's rearranging your rule sets in your brain. And that's like a rewiring thing a bit, right? And that's like a lot of behavioral change. It's some habit change. It's some hard conversations. And sometimes those rules are set from, I mean, just think about when you're a kid, like, actually just think about sports. You're not going to be able to unhear it now, but like when you hear someone talking about a game or you hear someone talking, especially people who may not, like, I'll just say it, fans. It's like, they'll say, like when they complain about the football game, oh, that's his job. He's got one thing to do. It's
Yeah.
Really?
Get on out there, yeah.
Well, but it's like, that's the thing, right? You go to your work, whether you're an accountant or truck driver or whatever, and you just kill it every day. Every day you just rock up and you freaking smash it. Every single day. Really. You see what I'm saying?
That's your one job. You can't do it.
You can't do it? Yeah,
true.
So
sometimes he jackknives that.
Right. He ride his bike and he's fucking
that stuff as an athlete gets imprinted into your head.
Yeah.
True.
Like you even second place is last. Second place is first loser. It's like, really?
Yeah.
I mean, don't get me wrong. First is better, but second place?
Pretty good.
At the Olympics, at the Worlds?
Yeah.
Like with the best people in the world. Like, is it that bad? I mean, you can get a string of seconds and win a title.
Yeah. Yeah.
Seconds will get you first.
Exactly. And that's exactly what we work on is that kind of mentality. Because if you give yourself a limited window to perform, that's all you're going to have is a limited window. If you give yourself a bigger window to perform, guess what? There's different ways you can make this happen, right? And that's about being self-aware. That's about understanding your emotions, how they work, how those emotions are energy. They only inform you, but you can contain that energy and let it fly when the gate drops or when it's time to drop in for your run. And that's the difference. It's like understanding how to manage your energy and your emotions so that you can go do the thing that you do every day, that you would probably do anyway, even if you didn't get paid.
It sounds like confidence is part of it, but not everything.
Confidence is part of it. You're nailing it. And I feel I'm somewhat proud of myself for explaining it well, because confidence I always say it, confidence is not a prerequisite for success.
Yeah.
Because as a racer, I can tell you there's plenty of times where it's like I got to practice, I was feeling good, dropping people on my second pedal, watching the main event.
Yeah. Yeah,
right?
because confident.
Because I was so confident.
Yeah.
I was so confident that I don't need to warm up.
Yeah,
I was so confident that I didn't respect the dude who had
so confident I'm going to do this rail on Dennis's little YouTube channel.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
No.
And the truth is,
that's so true.
and the truth is, how many?
There has to be a balance. Like if you had warmed up a little, like you had too much confidence.
But here's the thing:
it was too much confidence.
Care,
It wasn't that you couldn't do the rail. The confidence got you.
Right. I prefer you believe that you can.
Yeah.
You don't need.
What about if it's him doing a 20 stair rail that maybe he should warm up a little bit?
Maybe.
I wish it was 20 stairs. It'd be better.
14.
Yeah, do some stretches.
He was pro for 14, 15 years. 20 stairs. We're rounding up on this episode.
I prefer you believe it.
Yeah.
Right? Because the confidence can come and go. Like when you first turn pro, your first X Games, your first Olympics, your first lap as a pro. Like the truth is, you may not know where you stack, right? But you did turn pro. So somewhere deep inside of you, there's something that thought or believed that either it was possible or that you could.
Yeah.
Right? But that doesn't guarantee the odds. But what happens is, as you move further along, you start looking at the odds, and then your brain starts playing the tricks on you.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, no. I was, you mentioned DeMarcus before we started recording. Have you ever met him?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. He talks about appreciating the little wins a lot with like progression of bike riding, because we do these how-to videos and stuff. And he talks about like, hey, don't get focused too much on accomplishing the trick. Like focus on the little progressions that are like, wow, I put my peg on there for the first time or something, focus on that small stuff and the almost like micro progressions on the way there, because it won't be today, it won't be tomorrow. It'll be however many days down the road.
I mean, that's super smart, because most, a lot of times when we look at doing something big, it's intimidating.
Yeah.
Right? It's like, you live by there's a mountain by your house. And it's big. And if you're kind of like just some person who's like, okay, I'm going to climb that mountain today, and this is the first time you got your ass off the couch in like 8 months.
Yeah.
You might not make it up, or you might be mad because it hurts so bad on the way up.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Or you might have to go back down because you went the wrong way. So understanding that you can make those little gains and appreciating those are huge.
Yeah.
But you get intimidated when you see the whole mountain, because you're like, oh, how am I going to do that? Sometimes you don't even know how, right? You won't find out how until you take the first or second or third step. And it's in that step taking, it's in the shooting for the North Star that you actually find the direction sometimes. I'm sure you've probably I worked with a freestyler, and she was very public about our work together. But it's, I remember like there's just like, it's hard to learn those tricks, whatever they are, and scary on top of that. So, and sometimes it's just for whatever reason you wake up and it's just kind of not there, right? And so that's super frustrating. So if you wake up the next day, it's like, okay, and you want to say it like, today I'm going to pull it, but you might not. But until you start going for it, you may not find out or see where you're going wrong until until you start to attempt that thing. And then when you start to attempt, you're like, oh, okay. It's like when someone pulling back too soon, or I'm pulling back too early, or I need to go off. I need to, my head needs to be to the left or something, whatever that little thing is. But to just rock up and think, oh yeah, I mean, if you got it like that, great. I'm sure everyone's got one thing, but generally speaking,
it's like having a trick list and showing up and being like, I got to learn these 3 tricks before Olympics, rather than like, if you just rode every day and had fun, you're probably naturally going to learn 3 different tricks that you'll be better at.
Yeah. Well, a conversation I have with athletes and even like executives, but specifically athletes and specifically riders, it's like, what kind of rider are you, and what kind of rider do you want to be? So for me, and I struggled with, and I'm a racer, right? So, but I still think and believe that even in racing, it's an expression of who you are, right? That you're expressing yourself through this very physical thing, which is why it is so important to us. Especially on the trick side, you're expressing yourself. But I look at like a Brian Foster, and I can only wish to have it like that. But there's so many things that go into make Brian. Just from a racer standpoint, forget like a dip 3 or forget like, a flatty. I'm just talking like how he looks going over a roller. Like we both go over the same roller. Keith Mulligan's going for his picture versus mine, right?
Shout out Mulligan.
But that's how it is. I used to hate on that, but it's at the same time, it's like, nah, Brian's dope. Like, I can't deny that.
Yeah.
Right?
Why do you think that is?
I think it's just, one, there's like logistics. Like, there's body type, right? There's time on the bike. There's what he values as a rider. He valued, getting over it in a certain way and being smooth. I valued getting to it first.
Yeah.
Right? And not necessarily caring how it looked. Right? Until it was like, oh, well, maybe a magazine might care how it looked.
Yeah.
But my point is, though, I had to own the type of rider I was. Right? And granted, with more riding, I did get better and it smoothened out a bit. But I was not going to be a Brian.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I had to work with my DNA.
Yeah.
Right?
And you're obviously comparing yourself to somebody who's
right,
like considered.
But we get really caught up with that stuff. But Brian and I raced each other for many years.
Yeah.
So he was a peer. But we get caught up in that. So it's like, what type of rider do you want to be? Like, especially with these judged events, it's like, hey, like, so Brian's another great example. He wasn't going to throw the most tech trick, but it was going to be beautiful.
Yeah.
Right? Whereas like a Nyquist has got, I can't even count how many times his bars or bikes spin.
Yeah.
And it's super tacked, and then he's just like, it's almost like he's hitting a rail when he lands. It's like, damn, that was kind of perfect.
The age-old style versus tricks.
But that's okay, right? And then Brad Sims, super athletic, like just power. Mm-hmm. Like you're just in awe of like the sheer strength it took to get the bike to do that thing. It's like, I think if he trained to race BM racing, he'd be good maybe. Double A. He's that athletic.
Yeah.
But my point is, but it's in Brian owning the type of rider he is, right? He didn't go to the X Games and be like, okay, I'm going to throw it, da-da-da-da-da. He says, I'm going to be the racer that can jump his ass off. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying he said that, but that's how it looked.
Yeah.
He went there and was the best Brian Foster.
That's right. That's right.
I'm going to learn Nyquist tricks.
That's right. And Brad Sims is like, well, I'm going to do Brad Sims. Mm-hmm. So I'm just going to do some powerful ass riding.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's
Nora Cup later.
Yeah.
Right? And that's the thing. So like you might be a powerful rider. You might be a very textbook kind of rider. You might be, and I'm not saying that you can't take from all these other influences and adapt to it, but that's why I asked, what kind of rider are you? What kind of rider do you want to be? And somewhere in there, you can incorporate stuff into your DNA, because it's up to you to bring that thing to the table, not become someone else. Like even in golf, Rory or Tiger, or name a golfer that, they might have the perfect swing, but what you don't realize is you can copy that swing, but it ain't your swing and it ain't their swing. Mm-hmm. And also what you don't realize is you don't realize all those little micro corrections that they're making as they pull back and follow through. Mm-hmm. Like you don't know if they're like adjusting their thumb. You don't even know if they're thinking, oh man, I probably should have started sooner. Because I've come off the gate like going, I'm a little late, and still won that moto. Yeah. Right? Because there's all these little micro corrections. I've left early and turned my wheel, so my wheel didn't hit the gate.
I think that's like if we played Dennis's winning X Games run, he'd be like, I fucked up there. I fucked up there. Like you would have like, I wanted to do something else there or something like that. I feel like all those things where it's like it was good enough for that day, but it's not exactly what I wanted. Right. So it's such a crazy game, I guess. Is it?
Yeah, thinking about all this stuff like mentally is crazy.
Yeah.
What's the main issue or like the most common thing that comes with athletes that you've noticed? Is there a really common thing that you've had to work out with pretty much every athlete? As far as something that's in the way of them being like the rider or the whatever they are.
Sorry, that was a camera check. I saw.
Yeah, I was just saying, did we break something?
No. I just about every 30 minutes, I check all cameras.
Right. So every athlete has their own thing. And by the way, a lot of even the people I mentioned, a lot of times it's like, I need certain things so that I can just be better focused and have a strategy going in so my brain's not all over the place. Mm-hmm. That's the main reason why they're calling, is like, how can I hone in better on this thing? But I'd say it's funny, things go in waves, but I think fear is a big one. And the reason why I say fear, so there's a piece of that, but it's not even failing. It's actually of not getting what you want. That's different.
Okay.
Right? Because when you like, as a rider, or even a rider that doesn't ride anymore, like how many days have you gone by and not thought about riding?
Yeah. 0 for me. Yeah.
Like, right? I mean, it consumes you, us, this thing, right? Like it's literally life. And so if it's not happening for us, or even part of our world, but if you can think of it in the realm of like performance, and like you need to perform because like that's part of your livelihood. So if it's not happening, like it's kind of death. Like it at least that's the way it feels. Mm-hmm. So I mean, forget the check or for this or that. So it's fear. So that thing not happening isn't just like, oh, I failed. It's almost like who I am is starting to not be who I am. Yeah. Right? I mean, it's almost an identity thing. And I've never said that publicly, by the way. Yeah. But that's kind of what I'm getting to. It's like, yeah, there's anxiety, and yeah, you want to do well, and there's hope, and there's expectation, and that's stress, and all this. I can bring out all kinds of fancy neurological terms and psychological terms to describe it, but at the end of the day, anxiety, future worry, right? What are you worried about? Not getting what you want. Yeah. Right? Not meeting your expectation, and that's the bottom line. And it's funny because we mentioned confidence, we mentioned belief. I'm getting to the point now where it's like my job is to help you be free out there. Like, it's not happiness, it's not confidence necessarily. I want you to be free when you're on your bike. Whether you're I want you to be free when you're at the office. I want you to be free when you're flying a plane. I want you to be free.
Consequences, free, desire,
like free to
result.
Be, right? So remember, like to be the best Blue Falcon you can be, to be the best Ryan Fudge you can be, like free, right? Yeah. And if the judges don't like it, that's okay, but my guess is if you're freer, they're going to like it a whole lot more if you're trying to be something else and you're rigid and tight. Yeah.
Is free basically like no fear of?
No, you can be free. You can have
free with the fear.
You can.
It's funny. Fear. I almost feel like Peraza is like how he drops in it and does what he wants to do, and he takes the judges and he's like, well, I'm going to get fucking 8th because they don't appreciate what I do, but I'm not going to change who I am or what I want to do. It's like, it's funny when you said that. I was like, that's like Peraza. Yeah, it's like, yeah. I mean, it makes sense. Yeah. I could see it because, like, I'm envisioning the gate, and you're like, and all the things that you had in your head that were bothering you or whatever, and you're like, oh, I just want to fucking do well here, but if I don't, fuck it, like one of those like Office Space type things,
but it's
type thing.
He wants more Kevin Perazas out.
Yeah,
I mean, don't we all?
We're trying to get a bunch more Kevins.
But the thing is, if you have if you not just feel, but if you are free, right, you really can be better. Yeah. Like you can be better. Yeah. You're going to express yourself physically or, through this bicycle vehicle or whatever vehicle it is that you use to express yourself in a way that only you can do it. Yeah. Right? I'm not guaranteeing the win, but I guarantee the attempt will be a shit ton better.
Yeah. Yeah. That's true. And so I feel like it's a little bit of a transfer, but like you talked about identity and fear of the future and stuff like that, and I can't help but think that 2008, 2011 Jason going from being a professional racer to psychologist couldn't have been like completely easy to let go of that, and that's a reoccurring theme on this podcast of like, hey, I was professional bike rider, I did all this shit and blah, blah, blah. And that is like, people struggle with that idea. And I've said it a couple of times, but when I got fired from Ride or we got let go from Ride, it was like, all right, who am I? Because I've been doing this for 19 years.
You're the Ride guy.
Yeah. And now I'm not.
Was it Alan Cook who said it was kind of like the death of someone?
Yeah.
Like when he transferred careers.
True.
What did I say?
Yeah,
it's
it
like
was.
Death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he had to let go of that guy and, he's
still
there.
that guy.
And he alluded,
he's still
but
Alan,
he had to make peace with it.
Yeah.
That it was gone, right? So so I learned, this is one of the things I did learn from when I was working with the Psych. So that year when I graduated college, I'm like buying a house, I'm going to be super, all I can do is focus on racing. But I didn't take it to heart, but he did his best to instill it, and I guess it worked, but like graduating college and those chapters ending in my life, there was a bit of a grieving process there, right? And so when racing is done or your athletic career is done, there is a grieving process. And by the way, it's a big one. Because again, when's the last time you didn't think about riding a bike?
No.
Right? So it's like this best friend, family member ever, like I can't even explain how personal that relationship is with riding. When that's gone, that's a big blow, right? And especially like everything's wrapped up into that. Not even just like who you are, but your friends, how you relate to people. And I got to tell you, like, the dinner parties where I'm sitting with a bunch of other dudes who are married to whomever, and like they're talking about traffic patterns. I'm like, I don't care.
Fuck my life.
I don't care about your traffic patterns. Like,
when you spend so many years with this group of friends, and you're so similar, and it's just like the conversation.
Like, I was in Switzerland last weekend, and now I'm,
It's funny. I'm in this in this neighborhood, and obviously we have the kid, and so we have family. We have other families nearby, and the two people that I have connected with is a fighter jet pilot and a Navy SEAL.
Exactly.
And it's like because we have like so many, and not in any sense that I'm
so
not
badass till you came to the suburbs.
not like any sense that I'm comparable in any, but it's like the mentality is like they see the same mentality in a lot of ways, and just being traveled and all this stuff, and it's like the dudes that are have great careers and stuff like that. We're just not relatable.
And by the way, like
because you're more of those kind of people.
Yeah. It's weird. It's weird. Yeah, it is a weird thing.
It's a to be generous. It's a learning curve, right? But bottom line is, it's learning how to become okay. Hated that concept of being okay. Yeah. She was an amazing, by the way. She was an amazing client. And it was the day she was going to leave for the Olympics was a catastrophic accident. She couldn't go. And so
what year is that?
London.
Okay.
So 12.
Yeah, I don't think I know what happened either.
Yeah.
So we're working with.
Yeah. So boom, 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 boom. She makes the team. I was confident she was going to medal. Catastrophic accident. Chain came off. Done.
Universe. Like one that.
Yeah.
But she's training, working with riders. She's and she's killing it in her world now. But this concept of okay, she didn't like it.
Oh yeah.
And I love the concept of okay, because okay is like ready. Okay is fine. Like fine is better than fine. I don't need you to be great or super fantastic. I'll take it.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for you.
Yeah.
But when you're okay, like if you're okay with things, that means you're settled.
Yeah.
That means you're grounded. That means like you kind of can't be fucked with. Like I'm good.
Definitely.
I'm free. I'm okay. Right? So back to getting the person who's, closing this chapter and opening another chapter, becoming okay with that is a big thing. And when I'm working with athletes who might be at this, sunsetting from a career standpoint, sometimes the work is like, they're pros. They know what to do. So a lot of the stress is coming from what's next, because it's probably the biggest question we're scared to answer that we won't face as riders, pros, like what's next, right? Because it's not like a lot of us were making money if we were lucky enough, but we're not making Michael Jordan money, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So it's not like you're going to just like go, what am I going to do with all my money? It's like, how am I going to scratch the pennies that I did make and like create a life that's meaningful?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because it really meant a lot before.
Exactly.
So
meaning, I think, is the hard thing.
Yeah.
Is
So
the fulfillment and
so
the
the
meaning.
performance plan.
That's a hard thing for athletes to go from this awesome thing to the next thing and be scared that it's just going to be, even if you're making money, if it's not awesome, it's going to suck, because you went from something that was awesome and you got to make money.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's
and that's
it is a scary thing.
Right.
I call it champion syndrome. I feel like you're the champion, you're best at something, and then you have to go fucking swing an axe or fucking dig a ditch, and you're like, I was here. Why? How the fuck did I get here?
So
the package is awesome.
It's finding peace, right? It's finding peace with that. And the cool thing for me and this is like personal, but so, okay, let me back up. So when I work with athletes, so sometimes the performance plan is, hey, let's talk about the white elephant in the room, and let's go into the cave where the dragon is, and like maybe you'll realize it's just a lizard. Mm-hmm. It might suck. It might even be poisonous, but it's manageable, right? And then you can, right, but then what I've noticed when I've done that is, the results increased because now there's not this other dread or distraction of like what's next. Because,
so that the lizard is like, what's this underlying fear? Or like not fear, but like, what's the thing that's like bugging you?
Yeah, yeah. So a lot of athletes who are sunsetting, sometimes the performance plan isn't like, okay, let's focus and let's create this plan, even though there is one. It's more like, well, let's just like deal with the thing you're really scared of, which is you don't know what the hell you're going to do next. Okay. And you're holding on to this like it's the last thing on earth, right? And how about we like celebrate this great career and you go out and like be free and do what you know how to do. And by the way, like, hey, look at all these options available to you that you might be interested. Let's find some of them out.
Yeah.
And then the anxiety starts to,
because the anxiety almost crushes both.
Correct.
Because they're not performing.
Fear.
Yeah, they're not performing well enough to even continue the path that they're already on, and they're not preparing for the end.
Right. Yeah. So sometimes the performance plan is to actually work on something, but it depends where that person is in their career. But becoming
you
at
work
peace
with so
with
many
that,
different people at so many different ends of the career. It could be just trying to get them going rather than.
And the reason why I say celebrate it is because there are, and this is like truly something to be grateful for, regardless of how your career. But if you were able to make a career in this thing that you love and make money and let alone like win a championship or whatever, or say you're the best or one of the best, mathematically, like the odds that you defeated were astronomical.
Yeah.
Like astronomical. So rather than lament the fact that it's over, like actually acknowledge, like own the fact,
celebrate it,
own that fact that it happened, right? Because not many, like when you won the X Games, when you went to bed eventually, I'm sure there was a little bit of a party. A little bit, right? But when you actually put your head down.
He does know you, Dennis.
Yeah, we partied.
There's a thing that happens when you win. Anyways, no, but when you went to bed, like, life was probably pretty perfect right in that moment where you're like,
It's that like ecstasy.
Like it's just,
like that,
and it's only a moment,
like,
like that quick.
There's a lot of different things.
Do you know how many?
But
a lot of people don't have that. I mean, and so that was like one of the main reasons why I wanted to get into this.
The first time I did ecstasy, I was like, this is like the synthetic.
This guy.
The synthetic version.
Listen, where's the camera? Where's the camera?
It's right here.
Okay. Don't.
It's okay.
I'm by no means endorsing any kind.
But for real though, I had somewhere I was going with this. You're not.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Yeah,
okay. I'm just going to be very clear.
You have to be careful
that we can do this.
That is not
naturally.
That is not medication.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So the first time I did ecstasy, I was like, holy shit, this is like, it's a synthetic feeling of that feeling I've got throughout my life from getting that clip I never thought I'd get, or
jumping that fence at fucking Raven.
Whatever, exactly. And I remember telling people that, and then you wake up with a fucking shitty feeling, and I was like, that sucks. You can get that naturally.
Oh, there we go. I should have let him finish the story.
That's what I was going
to. Well, thank you. I was just like, man.
No.
I heard you on the podcast. You said drugs are great.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, that's great. That's a crazy statement. That's. I feel like I've never heard that before.
What?
Like that connection between synthetic, synthetic happiness and that is like, it's true. It is.
But it was a crappy feeling. But my point is the feeling you have.
But when you wake up from the X Games the next day, you feel like
that part. But not even the next day. I mean, wait till 10, 20 years from now. Like you're still going to be that person. I'm not saying live in the past, but you're still going to be that person. Mm-hmm. And you'll still have, you're a dad now. That's cool. Mm-hmm. Right. So all those lessons learned, all that insight gained, that experience and then on top of that, these rich, and I mean like oozing rich, like overflowing honey, rich relationships that you have through this thing, like that serves your life in ways that are immeasurable. And that's something you don't get into, you don't realize right as you're kind of, saying goodbye to your career, but in a weird way, I think like your podcast is a great testament to that. Like when, you know, like a Magoo or a Haro or or, you know, Mad Dog, like they've, you know, they did this thing, and, you know, some of them were in business, but some of them, even Brad Sims, like he's had like 3 careers.
Yeah.
Right. It's almost like if you can just allow it, right, and be at peace with it and yourself, it may even come back to you in some kind of ways. Maybe not directly, but indirectly.
Yeah.
Which to me is like just
and it takes
icing on the cake.
and it would take time to get that
of
right.
Course.
To be resolute with that being gone. I guess you said a grieving process.
Yeah.
In a sense.
It is a grieving. And you know, hence bitter old pro.
Yeah.
Right. So there's a lot of guys who I don't know that you know. I'm sure there are on the freestyle trick side, but they're definitely on the racer side where it's like, ooh, you know, this person hasn't really let it go. Like they're still holding on to.
Oh yeah, they're on Instagram.
Whatever, they're on Instagram, right? They're on Instagram, but you know, I mean, it's just clear. Like there's something that's not.
Well, you see,
there's something that's not resolved.
To understand all the stuff you just said, though.
You see a lot of people that like pros that fuck off. Essentially, they disappear, and then they hate bike riding, and then 5 years pass, and then they go, "All right, I started cruising." Yeah. Oh wow! I forgot how much I love this, and like all the pretentiousness and ego of what they were supposed to be doing is now gone, and they come back and they find it and they love it.
Would like do the right steps.
Yeah,
You know, I'm not that guy anymore.
It's 100 or 0, I guess.
Right, right, and
the right steps make it easier.
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. Like I respect like Danny Nelson, for instance. He's not a bitter pro, but he was. Even more of I was a racer more than a rider, but he was way more of a racer than a rider. But like he still has his bike in his bike bag.
Yeah, ready to go.
No, yeah, it's like from his last race. But and you know,
so he literally never unzipped it.
Yeah, like like he was done. You know, and like you know maybe he shows up every 4 years at one thing, says hi, and he's like out. Doesn't check in on there's no profiles. There's no Not that he doesn't, have a couple people that he keeps in touch with, but he's at peace with it. He's not a grumpy old pro, but there's a lot of grumpy guys where it's like, they're like racing as if they're still trying to get the big deal, some of them, or riding. And then there's some people where they're just bitter. And I can say that because, I've had some shade thrown at me from some guys I used to race. I'm like, dude, we're
fucking old.
Yeah, like we're in our 40s. And by the way, like you do what you want to do. Like what do I have to do with anything? And by the way, you won more than me. Like what? Why are you angry? You had a great career. What I'm doing has nothing to do on your career.
Why are they angry? Because of your success now?
So it's pretty interesting. So there was this product.
Or they're saying I could be still get on the track.
So the World Championships were in the U.S. I don't know, it was like 6 years ago or whatever. And I put this little booklet out called World Champion Mindset. And I recorded it, put it together, and it was like a little product. It was like $50. I was like, hey, get ready for the Worlds. And then one of my, I don't even say my peer, but one of the guys we used to race each other, who was a champ, he just like I couldn't even believe it at first. He like posted something that said, this is what's wrong with the sport, da-da-da-da-da-da, and like really just like
hammered in.
Try to hammer in on like what, and he's not even a real champion, da-da-da-da-da, because it was cruiser, not, and it was just I'm like, he's like, you can't win, you can't read that book and win. I'm like, actually, it's really good. 1 and 2 is I'm not saying that. It's just like
if you want a free copy.
And by the way, like it's like I think they know that it's anyways, but that's someone who's got some unresolved issues. Yeah, that's the point.
Yeah, I think
someone who's happy with their life isn't gonna bash somebody else.
But so it's interesting, right? Because he won a lot of races, right? I'll give him like he had a great career.
Everybody knows it except for us.
The Jackal. Hopefully he's good.
The Jackal.
Anyways,
BMX.
But there's some people who have to make other people the enemy.
John Purse.
So they could win.
Rode for Redline.
Well.
Redline's riding.
He killed it.
I remember him from the fuel, whatever the days. Like Redline's riding really good today. And I'm like,
it bummed me out though because like 1, I respected him as a racer, and 2, like one of my best laps ever was I was in second place behind him.
Yeah.
Like I remember third main, NBL Grands, he was winning, I was in second. I remember hitting the triple, third straightaway, just thinking, I'm going as fast as I can go right now.
And he still beat you.
No, but it was
that's sick. That's sick.
But it was fine. Like that was my life, right? In that moment. But that was in the moment, right?
Yeah.
So, but it also tells you the type of racer he was and the type of racer I was. And he did win more.
Yeah.
Right? I'm not saying like I had to be like him to win more, but I'm saying we're different people wired different ways. But he was one of those guys that had a hard time
losing,
fraternizing with people that he raced, right? So some people feel like I'm competing against him, and my thing is, no, you're competing with them.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Because to me, it's different. But I'm a little bit more. I don't say progressive, but I just don't take that black and white approach. Like I need, if I'm on the gate with you, I need you. I really need you to be on the gate. Because if there's no one on the gate, then there's no one to race, and then I'm not making any money, right? So that's just like logistically possible.
Yeah.
Two is you're gonna, if I'm on the gate with the best in the world, well then cool, I get an opportunity to beat the best in the world, right? So there's all these other ways to look at this, right? And it's not mean I'm gonna let you go, and it's not that I'm not gonna give you an elbow in a corner, but it is to say that like you're here, I respect you, I appreciate you. Let's go for whatever we're going.
Yeah, yeah. There's a big brain outlook on racing. I feel like that takes a long time for a lot of I would assume a lot of 20-year-olds to get there.
Truth be told, I've had, I don't say clients because they generally don't become my clients, but like part of it, the reason for me getting into psychology wasn't necessarily just to help people win more and do more. More, better, happier, right?
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So, these are yours. I brought gifts.
This is your book?
Yeah, I was glad you brought these because I didn't, like I said, I listened to a couple of podcasts and I was like, and I legitimately, I was like, I'm going to buy a book after this.
So it's funny. That's the reprint. One of them's the reprint, one of them's not. Awesome. So you can fight over who gets what. I'll sign it.
All right.
But no, so for instance, there's some.
We got to show it. Boom.
There we go.
Yeah.
There's some parents. There's some parents.
I'm going to read it.
That have called and.
You got to do that pose though.
Is that on brand? Wow. Is that on brand?
Damn.
Yeah. No, so my whole thing is not just so you can win. Like I really, when I work with someone, I want them to be capable of winning, obviously, and ready to win.
Yeah.
But I want you to have a good life, and I want you to enjoy it, and I want you to
they have performance coaches, right?
They
have that,
right?
already.
And I want you to look back on this thing and say it was worth it, and then also be able to take this, whatever this is, and apply it to the next 30 or 40 or 50 years of your life. I'd be doing to me, I would be as a coach, right? Mental coach. I'd be doing my client a disservice if I wasn't doing that personally.
Yeah.
And I know that that's not the best business model, but I mean, I've seen it happen. I don't want my client to be the old bitter pro.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're not going to live their life well at that point either. So
that's a stain on my brand at the end of the day anyway.
A little bit of maybe a subject change, hard to say. But so we had, I sent you the Ricani podcast, which you said you listened to. One that I should have sent you was the Tyler Fernagle podcast, which you probably didn't listen to.
The teeth guy or the lack of teeth guy.
lack of teeth. So Tyler,
lack of teeth.
Well, I mean, that post kind of went.
Yeah, no,
that went hard.
That shit's pinned.
So Tyler's thing is that essentially he is a thrill junkie. I don't know. There's a better word for it, or a better phrase for it, but he wants to scare himself and loves scaring himself. And
I'd say he's just super extreme
in anything. Like anything he buys,
anything's extreme.
You're like really using the word like seriously. He's extreme.
Yeah,
because a thrill junkie, it's not even that because. He's more like
he hangs off of bridges and will hang off of trestles of bridges and I've been with him and he's hung off a stadium by a bolt.
Yeah, and it's like daily life,
crotch rocket doing 120 miles an hour.
Tyler's happy when life like the everyday is like. Yeah.
I don't know intense. Tyler.
Yeah,
he loves it.
I don't know him.
But also just because I felt like we spent like 30 seconds saying that. A heart of fucking gold, like literally one of the coolest kids on the planet. He's just so passionate and wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's all out there all the time. Like when you get him, you get him.
Yeah,
and
he struggles with ups and downs though, and because of his extreme personality.
Yeah,
right. So I don't know him. I will not diagnose anyone.
Yeah, of course,
right now. But I don't know, but to me, my question is, was there a question?
No, there wasn't a question, but how do you deal, if somebody came to you like that?
I did get, there was a question.
Not specifically Tyler, right? But somebody with an extreme personality like that.
My question would be, what are you getting out of all that? Mm-hmm. Like what's the payoff for you? And by the way, that's a trick question.
Is it?
Because you were going to answer with the extreme stuff, right?
Well, I mean, the thrill of being live or the something. Thrill. That would be because I think he said.
And my question, that's the trick part, because I want to know what's he get out of being the martyr on the other side.
Because I mean, I think Tyler said he's like, if I die, I die. Essentially, at a point, right?
There's plenty of people. So I mean, I got to tell you, clinically, we're trained that like reckless behavior. There's one thing. It's like, hey, I really like to go for 20-foot airs out of a quarter or a half. Okay, like I get that. Like there are people who like dangerous things, but you want to be careful, because even within the very small range of, even within our range of what we do, even though it's inherently dangerous, there's still, like you said, you use the word extreme, and I thought you were joking because you know how we don't like the word extreme.
Right guard extreme.
But you're like, no, it's extreme.
Like the extreme.
So you, right? And I've known what you've done on a bicycle, and I know I wouldn't do it, right? So to me, what you do is like just scary. Like, I'm not doing it. Wouldn't ever try it. Don't want to try it. Like, I'll stay away from it, right? And so you're saying what he's doing is extreme. Forget bike or not.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just saying, like, that
it means something.
It means something, right? So it's not like you're a golfer saying, oh, that person's crazy, and you jumped off a curb. You're saying this person's extreme, and what'd you say, hanging off of a bridge from a bolt?
Yeah, I mean, I shot the Silver Dome thing with him, and I literally he climbed on the edge, and it was a 100-foot drop, and it was
there are people who are wired that way. I mean, like I said, I'm not going to diagnose him, but I would ask what does he get out of that? Mm-hmm. You know, like is there anything missing that you feel compelled that that's what you think you need to do?
Yeah.
Then two is, I mean, I'm just kind of thinking out loud here. Like, is your ego at all involved in that, or your identity wrapped up of being that person and like living up to that and having to one up yourself? And even if it is for just street cred, for lack of a better term, like, what's that about? Mm-hmm. And then the whole thing, like, you know, hard on your sleeve, and then he'll kind of, you know, like he has these ups and downs. I mean, there may be something there, but I got to tell you, when risk-taking behavior is something that clinical psychologists take seriously.
Yeah.
You know, you have a client, and, you know, they've driven a Honda Accord all their life, and then the next thing you know, they show up on a crotch rocket, and they're like speeding through, you know, doing 90 miles an hour. It's like, you know, now that's not that big of a deal maybe to us, but that change into that risky behavior, it's like, why are we so reckless all of a sudden?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so the whole, he doesn't care if he dies. He might be talking about it as if it's like cool, and like, and I don't want to say cool as
not necessarily, but like,
I mean, it's one thing to be at peace with being with your mortality, like Maya Angelou, or like the Buddha, right? That's different.
Yeah.
Or like someone who's going to war.
Yeah.
But it doesn't sound like I'm at peace with it. That's almost like there's some kind of something where he's getting something out of, right? Not like just not dying.
Yeah.
Right.
I think so. I think that's
something.
I think that's
right. And I'm not judging it. I'm just saying, like, there's something there.
Yeah.
Which, you know, that would be for him and someone else to peel that onion if he wants to.
Is that something?
Hopefully he's happy and content with his life. And
I think he's getting there. And I think that, I mean, I should have sent you that podcast, and not that you would have time to listen to it beforehand, but
was it less than 5 hours?
It was less than 5 hours.
You listened to the Magoo one?
He said he listened to it.
I have no problem with long form. I'm just joking. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, he said he listened to it straight through.
As long as we don't drink too many Dales.
Yeah. No, I love it.
The end of them can get bad.
And then I guess the Ricani podcast, and obviously shout out to Tyler. I should have came into that conversation a little more prepared. So
Tyler, I don't know you. I respect you.
I love
honestly,
Tyler,
if I did know you and I did meet you, and we were having a drink
privately. He lives in Oceanside.
But I would ask him that. I would. I mean, not just just
probably love to talk to you.
Yeah. Honestly, maybe I'll send you his number and little pro bono just as a personal favor. Like it would be cool for you to talk to him.
Seriously, like
he lives in Oceanside, so it'd be easy for you too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. But I mean, it's, those are honest questions I would have.
Yeah. And he would be honest and answer.
And because even just those questions you have are like, me sitting here, I'm like, those are great questions. And Tyler would probably love to answer.
We didn't answer it. We didn't ask those questions. We never would have thought about it like that.
There's already better questions.
It's more like, stop doing that.
Be careful, Tyler. Be careful.
Wear a helmet.
Yeah.
He's just listening to us like, shut up.
Yeah.
He needs these real questions.
And then another conversation that I have
Jersey,
Ricanny, early success.
Yeah.
How it can shape your worldview, jade you, make you not appreciate normal life. I feel like afterwards, can be a little bit of a, going along with the grieving process. And I got this for free for doing what I wanted. And now I have to do this fucking work.
It's funny. I was really listening to that one, and I feel bad that, because there was very specific things that I remember at the time going, I would dig in a little bit more personally, just my background. I felt, okay, so he's young. He had a lot of success. I was youngish. I don't think I had the success he had at his young age. I was not always fast on my bicycle. I kind of sucked at first. So I really made this thing happen.
There's a little bit more freedom that comes with freestyle too, I think, once you get pro California. True. Like you guys are still every weekend at a track.
Yeah. It's at the end of the day, racing is structured.
It's more structured.
Right. I mean, there is a start and a finish line, and there's a practice time. And
like a national every weekend that you're supposed to show up at.
Correct. So, but what I got out of that, I mean, he was young. It seemed like, so you're rewarded for the thing that you do. Right. And that's a fortunate thing. Unfortunately, there was probably some other things that he was doing or doing with other people outside of the riding piece that he was getting rewarded for that probably shouldn't have been given his age. Right. And I wasn't there. I don't know, and I was super, super really just luck, straight up luck. But like I said, I didn't drink. Why didn't I drink? Because to me, that was the punk rock thing to do because everyone in high school was drinking. Right?
Yeah.
Right. And so that was kind of anti. And then, I happened to be teammates with a guy named Todd Corbett, who was best friends with Big E. And they had this thing called E-Team, and it was straight edge. Right. So that was and he was the pro on my team. So that was my direct influence. He taught me how to be a pro. And it began with not drinking. It did include going out, dancing at the club, but it didn't. But it included not drinking, and it included certain things. It included having your stickers on your number plate and all these other things, and how to do a clinic and blah 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 blah. Right. So I could imagine. I don't know, but I could imagine this. He's doing these rad tricks. He's super dope. He gets on a pro team, and then he's on the road. Doing what people on the road do. Who have free money and time.
Or high school. Freedom. He's a star of his high school. I think that was part of the element was that he was famous. At his school and stuff like that. And does the end result obviously being that, he got all that stuff for free, quote unquote, and now he has to get a real job. And rationalizing
wasn't there a story, but didn't his mom sell a bunch of?
He had to work hard to get all that stuff, though, is to get that skill.
Of course, yeah.
He was about it. He was about it on the bike, and we all know how that is. Just
the free thing.
You're just.
I said quote. Okay. Quote unquote.
But I mean,
free,
school is literally in your way. Until you get on the bike.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Whatever that is. Whether
he was a prodigy.
He was doing what he wanted to do
because he worked hard as fuck to get
there.
Exactly. Yeah, not undermining any of that. We all know we're canny.
But there was, and I don't know about who he grew up with or kind of the vibe around there, but what I got, there was a bit of a, and I don't mean to diminish it or belittle it but there is a bit of a tough guy element that I got from him a bit.
Of course,
I'm Jersey, I don't give a fuck. It's actually, dude, you do give a fuck. Usually when people say that, no, they care. That's a statement of anger. I don't care. It's yes, you do. So that's the pieces where I'm no, I mean, it seems like he's making peace.
Yeah.
Like he's in process of making peace with all of it.
Yeah.
And
the podcast was probably a big way of transitioning because now he's been riding again.
And I got that. Yeah. I mean, and for me, like personally, like when I was listening to it, I was concerned about his health. Mm-hmm. Like overall, just like well-being, health, like seemed like he smokes, he's in a bar, kind of like not the best environment.
Yeah.
But you know, like I have a bias. Like if you ride a bike for a living, like I kind of automatically love you a little bit.
Yeah.
Like it just, I can't help because it's like
because you did it. You
there's
know
a
that
piece of me, and you're like, yeah, I know.
It's not the easiest career.
You're right. I know, and it's just like, and to me, there's also so much greatness because it's so hard to do.
Yeah.
Like it is so freaking hard. Like forget just like the trick. Like to scratch out a couple dollars doing it is it's so hard.
Yeah.
That's what I was thinking.
And by the way, stupid. Like you can just go to school and get a job, right? Like or just get a job.
But the package deal, even if you're grabbing a couple bucks,
I give you that. I give you that.
That shit of just being every weekend with your friend in hotel rooms,
for sure.
Package deal.
But my point is
priceless.
like, so I mean that piece of me is like always like when I heard it, I mean I was listening to it as rider, and I'm a psychologist too, but I really was like, I want him to be healthy and happy, right? And hopefully whatever he's doing, he's finding his way back to that. It seems like he's making peace with it.
Yeah.
But it seemed like, so. There was, there was some names mentioned and some contracts.
Is there like a work, like it's a stupid question, but like, is there a workshop? Are there things that he should be doing that should like, or is it
honestly,
just like.
one of the best things that,
not him, but anybody.
No, one of the best things that I recommend, and I, it's not me, but Jordan Peterson, who's just a lightning rod in our profession. He wrote 12 Rules. But anyway, he has this thing called Future Authoring Program.
Jordan Peterson, this fellow.
Yeah.
Okay.
He has a thing called the Future Authoring Program, which to me, and he's really good at speaking to people in general, like everybody, but he's really good at speaking to men. Mm-hmm. And he talks about, but anyways, he has this future authoring program, which like if you do it, it's like an hour and a half worth of time. You don't have to do it all at once, but it's like, but basically kind of like you go through these series of questions and you write out like, just kind of like thinking about what your values are, where you want to be, what you want to do, what you're good at, what your talents are, and just kind of, so I know when he has college people do that, like, the retention, like it increases retention by 50%, which is huge.
Yeah.
Right. Just because this person took time to actually like name their North Star. Mm-hmm. Right.
What is retention?
Like staying in school.
Okay.
Graduating. Right. Yeah. So because college is hard.
Uh-huh.
A lot of people, they say, oh, look to your left, look to your right. That person will be here when you graduate.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's. They don't say that anymore, but that was like a big, but it's like that. It's like, well, wait, people are looking at me. It's like, well, your ass probably might not be here. I'm not saying it. I mean, yeah, it is hard because because where you are when you enter college is, probably first time on your own, and then there's the work, and then blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
But even if you're not in college, right, the very act of going through that future authoring program, right, you're kind of writing out your life and. You're allowed to change it, but I think that would be super healthy.
Yeah. No, I think I get what you're saying. It's I don't know the specific program, but just being conscious of what you want and what that makes sense. So,
and so even my clients, we will do a version of that. This book, has some inspiration from that. It's like, okay, like what's your more, what's your better, what's your happier? And like, I talk a lot about defining your win, right? What's a win for you, right? Mm-hmm. Don't tell me what NBC or ESPN wants to hear when you get interviewed. Like, what do you want, Ryan? What do you want, Dennis? Like when you go to bed at night, what is it you want? It might be second place. Like, who am I to say you have to win?
Yeah.
Right. But I want you going for what you want. And if you can get kind of clear on that, and then I can help you, and then I'm clear on what that is, now we're speaking the same language. Right, and we're going towards the same thing.
Lay it out there before
right?
you can get
and
there.
So back to to Sean. So when you go back to a young kid, and I felt pieces of this because you are young and impressionable, even if you like to think you have your stuff together, sometimes you end up doing things that other people want, or you're doing things that other people think you should be doing, right? Well, when I drink and jump off buildings, that's cool.
Yeah. Oh, you're talking about Tyler.
Period. Or anybody, right? Or whatever. Like, I'm just kind of throwing it out there. Or, you know.
Yeah, just impressionable.
Yeah, just whatever, right?
Or even just drinking.
Right.
Yeah.
I don't need to train. I'll just go to Hip Hair and get my hair done leopard spotted. And that'll get a picture in the magazine.
And then I won't make the main.
And then I'll be, whatever. Like, go on Red, you know?
I need to pee.
Yep.
Sorry to interrupt this podcast, but the Unclicked podcast is sponsored by Source BMX. We got to shout them out because they're rad. They're doing a bunch of stuff, and they are killing it.
Biggest mail order in the world. Got those warehouses in Kentucky. They got the one in the UK, of course. Pretty much get you something faster than anybody else in the world.
Yep. And if your bike shop don't have it, the Source does, and it'll be at your house, on your door, and maybe the next day.
True. And honestly, the best team in BMX right now. They just picked up Killian Roth this week.
Yeah, the ad was great because they really do like cover all the boards, and then Akeem's like, no, you don't.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Killian is, I mean, pun intended, killing it. The manual 180 during the rail jam at Battle of Hastings this year.
His part.
And then
check. Watch that.
Yeah, and then I heard that he put down some crazy clips inside the park.
Congrats to Source for getting Killian, and congrats Killian for linking up with Source.
Yep.
Good combo. You're on that is the most stacked team in BMX.
Thank you for sponsoring the podcast, Source, and we'll get back to it.
Let's do it. We're back, and that one is not for the members. That piss break. The members only don't even get that one.
Sorry. You opened a beer.
I did.
All right. Dale's are that good.
I appreciate it. It's always
is that
nice.
Your Tesla?
There's always a first.
That thing will get you home without.
It'll get me home.
I
just plug in the
one light beer.
Plug in the coordinates, and it'll take me there.
Cheers.
All right.
Anyways, if Elon is listening,
that's our next guest. Actually,
the full self drive is cool. However, it merges like a biatch. Right?
Keeps you in the slow lane or
little, and then the other thing,
more
it doesn't, it's scared, and one time it's kind of stopped on me merging, and I had to take control, and then the other thing is it'll get in this fast lane and sit.
It just won't go.
Can't do that, Elon.
Yeah.
Can't get in the.
At what speed? Like not California.
Not fast enough.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't matter what my speed is. If someone's coming up on me, it's got to move over.
It's got to know.
See what I'm saying? Can't just sit in the fast lane.
Yeah.
So it does that in the other lanes though. It'll move over in the other lanes.
It won't move over for people going. It'll move over to pass people. Great.
It doesn't know.
But it got me in the fast lane on the freeway, and I'm like, yo, I'm kind of getting.
That's dangerous.
I'm kind of getting sweated right now.
Yeah.
That's
and
dangerous.
so I had to move it over. Yeah.
That's funny.
Damn.
So
we're gonna be there one day.
We are there.
I guess so. Yeah.
I got picked up in San Francisco without a person.
Oh yeah, you got a Waymo one, huh?
Mm-hmm. They picked me up. It was cool. It was weird, but then after the first ride, I was like, prefer.
There's nobody in the passenger seat either.
I was in the passenger seat. Yeah. There was no one in the driver's seat.
Really, nobody else in the car at all.
Well, I was with Jonas and Josh.
Yeah, but nobody from
Chris.
Waymo, right?
No.
Wow.
They pick you. They're all over.
My buddy was in Seattle.
Thousands of them.
Same type. I don't know if it was the same brand or whatever, but same deal.
All over.
He sent me
Cars,
a picture.
No one in them.
Crazy. And that's the one that dragged somebody like 80 feet or something.
No, that's
like
a different company, and that's what's like got to. This is.
But I mean, it doesn't matter because it
was a normal
a human drags an asshole fucking 100 feet every day.
That's
probably.
Like it had one miss up because of a human actually messed it all up.
Yeah.
Apparently, and now that's all over the media.
Yeah.
But those cars, I'd rather have that than a fucking person I don't know drive me.
Yeah, pretty funny.
I like computers.
Where are we taking this?
I don't know.
Elon.
I mean, I think it's just important for people to know that there are resources out there.
There are resources.
I think that more than anything, we're not going to solve anything that we've ever discussed.
We want you to
podcast,
work with everybody,
like,
me and Ryan and everybody that's ever been on this podcast, if that's okay with you.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Give us our personality.
Well,
assessment
Can you fix rooftop?
So the assessment.
Can you make it so he doesn't blow a foot off?
The assessment you take the assessment. I don't just look at you and go, oh yeah, you're this and you're that. Although I have a good idea when I meet someone. But no, you take the assessment. It's like a proper assessment. It's like 20 minutes. And then...
What does it say about my personality that I'm just not even going to take the test?
You're a challenger. That's for sure.
There you go.
You're a challenger.
All right, I was joking.
You're not an adapter. You're a challenger.
All right.
Can we do some tests with me and Ryan?
Some tests. I don't have any tests.
There's no tests?
Right now.
Okay, no. I didn't know if there was any on the spot.
What about... So keeping in the same thing, I feel like the other one that I thought about Ricani, I thought about Tyler, and then I thought about Dakota, which is a very old podcast.
I didn't hear that one.
But Dakota talked about...
like our first podcast where someone came on and talked about not just BMX really.
Mental health and just like, just his, kind of overall struggle with mental health, but also a very specific thing was kind of a fear of death. Like a fear of death in that the stuff he was sitting at the top of stairs and he's like, I'm going to die right now. If I jump down this stair or whatever fucking thing, 180 jump on this roof and 180 off, I'm going to die.
Okay.
And I don't know how to overcome it.
Wow.
And so it was a real thing for him. Mm-hmm. So is there,
so some psychological gobbledygook stuff.
Yeah.
All right. So there's this thing. It's called automatic negative thoughts. We all have them. Mm-hmm. Okay. And so there's like black and white thinking, right? You either win or you lose. There's catastrophizing. Mm. There's should and must statements. Like, I have to do that. I should have done that.
Okay.
There's mental filtering, which is like you see something through a very specific lens. There's maximizing and minimizing. So like if you win, it's because nobody was there and you got lucky and the judges were stupid. But if you lose, it's because you suck. That's maximizes and minimizes.
Okay.
So what you're describing there is catastrophizing. He was catastrophizing, right? Which is normal.
Yeah.
When you do something dangerous, people tend to want to live.
Yeah.
Tend
true.
to.
Yeah.
And so you will, right? But that sends a fear message to your brain, and so there's some dissonance. And look at this, another racer is calling me Greg Romero.
Ooh,
wow,
that's the homie right there.
That's a good
Put
one.
him on speaker.
I'm gonna
We're gonna give him a test.
Okay.
No,
was it? No.
Psychological.
Anyways, let's get into some
just answer and say, have you ever listened to Unclicked podcast?
Okay.
I'm like, what?
Yo, G.
Hey man, what's up?
How you doing? Hey, quick question: have you ever listened to the Unclicked podcast?
Yeah. Whose was that?
Yeah.
Brian Fudd, you're on it right now. I'm actually You're sitting with me,
shout out to
Greg Romero,
Dennis Anderson, Ryan Fudger, and yeah, so now there's two racers on the podcast.
We got two guests.
People are gonna turn this shit off on YouTube. Anyways,
no.
But I had to answer it because.
Forgive me. I have heard of it.
He's heard of it.
Off on the question because I was asking you. I was going to ask you about some bike park, but yeah. Anyways, yeah. Fudger. Yeah, right on.
Fudger, right on.
Anyways,
Romero, right on.
Yeah. Anyways,
are you guys recording?
Yeah, we're recording right now.
Oh shit! What do you want to talk about?
Everything.
Yeah, 90s pros are always ready to go. Yeah. Just by the way, just so you know.
Yeah. You guys are a lot of podcasts.
1998, Jason Richardson was a catalyst in upsetting Neil Wood in retaliation of putting me over the turn, and then in turn of that retaliation of putting me over the turn, I get Neil Wood.
Oh, that's right. That's a great story. So
and then in retaliation of that, Neil Wood met me at the finish line. I was kind of like, oh shit, I kind of screwed up, and then he put me in a.
No, it wasn't at the finish line. You guys were fighting on the track.
No,
you were fighting on the track. It was an open. I remember because I watched the fight.
There's not enough fighting in freestyle.
I watched the fight and got on my bike and still got third in that moto.
You were behind the gate. You had to be on stage.
No, we were talking shit on English. We were talking shit about English people's teeth. And then that made Neil mad.
This is why the dinner with normal people.
Oh, me. Look at these guys. You laughed.
He's asking about a bike part. Now they're talking about this.
You laughed. Okay, so I was making a joke about English people's dentistry at the time. You laughed, and then we all got in the gate.
That was right before Maine.
No, this is like this is like a pro open moto.
Hold on a second. You were in a different moto.
Bro, I was in that moto because when he threw the bike, when you threw the bike, you missed, hit Sanchez, I crashed, and then you guys started fighting. I watched the fight, and then they're
way more in racing.
I watched the fight, and they said, get on your bike, go. And then I got on the bike, and I still got third in that moto.
Yeah, there isn't.
Right.
That moto was like 3 minutes long.
Well, it was...
We need more fights in BMX, I think. I got second. No, motherfucker, I did.
Move on his part because, it was a second moto. Like, AA pros are known to take each other out, but they only do it when the context matters, right? And in that context, it was just a regular qualifying round. And, it'd be like a freestyler going, breaking out their best trick in the first round. You don't do that. You save it. Right? Okay.
90s pros got game, dude.
Yeah.
90s pros got
What's
game.
he up to now?
You don't fight.
What's Greg Romero up to now?
So anyways,
before we got to get back into Jason's brain.
Suspension, but the good news is that GT bicycles, in which they totally had my back. They were like, dude, don't worry about it, Greg. We're not going to do anything about it. In fact, bad news is good news. That was the first thing out of the marketing manager's mouth, who handled my contract.
Boom. There you go.
There you go.
That's
a peek under the hood right there.
WWF.
All right, Greg. I love you.
Thank you, Greg. Thank you for being our second remote guest.
All right, peace.
Yeah. Who's the other one?
Brickany.
Brickany?
Yes.
Oh,
he was the first one.
But we never had a speakerphone call.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
Might have been one of them.
It was too it was irresistible though.
Yeah,
I remember that name too.
Yeah. But you said answer it. So
no, it was I made that situation happen.
Where were we going with? Dakota Roche, mental health.
Yeah, the catastrophizing, right?
Yeah. Thank you. So he was, which is a normal thing to do, right? Because
of course
you want to live. So
it's weird though for someone who does that for a living, dangerous stuff.
Yeah, because he did it for 15 years, right. And then all of a sudden.
So what I was about to say. So what I was about to say is that to me. So the normal thing is like there's always a piece of us that's like, oh, what if, right? Yeah. That's the ants, right? Automatic negative thoughts. So the job is to stomp out the ants, right? And a lot of stuff that I do with clients.
It's a cute phrase.
Yeah. A lot of stuff I do with clients teaches, right? So that's when you hear stuff like positive self-talk, when you see people doing their routines up behind the gate or before a run, when you see that breathing, when you see them like kind of going into that place, part of that is to short circuit those automatic negative thoughts and stomp out the ants and also kind of redirect that energy so that you can go do your thing. Sounds like, I don't know, but it sounds like he probably, he obviously loves riding, was good at it, but it probably had some like underlying anxiety issues, I'm guessing, and it just started to like bubble up and creep and bubble up and creep and bubble up and creep, and then for whatever reason, like up there, when I say up there, it was a stair.
I mean,
whatever
I mean, this is like 3 years ago, and
whatever
Dakota's put out like two fucking amazing parts.
I met him. I met him in Austin. He's a cult rider, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And he was really nice guy.
Incredible.
I mean, I can't say that like we hung, but like I met him. He's like super respectful, nice guy.
Yeah.
But to me, that's very much like on that anxiety realm.
Yeah.
Right? Like
how would you address that of like, hey, I'm no longer able to like do what I've done
when you're debilitated.
Yeah.
From crippling anxiety.
Yeah.
So the best known, I shouldn't say the best known. One of the best known interventions is exposure. Mm-hmm. So I'd throw him off the staircase. No, just kidding. I'm joking.
Really? I was leaning forward. No. It was like, all right.
But metaphorically, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, metaphorically, like we'd find a way. So the funny thing is he's done it before, and then all of a sudden this hit, right?
Yeah.
So I'd want to know, okay, what's going on?
Yeah.
Why now?
Yeah.
Right? So like sleep, eat, exercise, has that changed?
Mm-hmm.
Like, because sometimes like there's some stuff going on with just those three things, and that's enough to put somebody over the edge. Oh yeah, sleep, diet, and exercise are the biggest things that can affect mood. And you can definitely control your exercise and diet.
Diet, yeah.
Sleep's hard. I usually like to use the term rest.
Okay.
Because some of us don't rest enough.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why I say rest is because I definitely, when people travel around the world, sleep's kind of
mystic thing.
One can start to stress about sleeping or not sleeping, but you don't have to stress about getting rest, right?
What is rest?
Rest is like laying your ass down and being still.
Okay.
Right.
Closing your eyes.
Right. So when you go,
That's the way you said it.
Yeah. Well, when it's yeah. I mean, if
really
it's sleep, it's good.
No, because it made sense. It just made sense. Yeah.
Right. If it, well, because you will lay it, because I'm sure you've been halfway around the world. Right.
Time zones.
And all the and there's this exactly, and you're supposed to sleep.
Freaking out. I have anxiety.
You're supposed to sleep because it's nighttime.
And I'm freaking
Says
out just
who?
laying there. It says everyone else sleeping around me.
Exactly. And then if
like,
you're staying at someone from Europe's place and they actually are asleep, but it's funny when you stay with other Americans, like, motherfucker, you awake? Like, yeah. Then it's okay. Right. But your brain starts playing tricks on you when it's that quiet, that dark, and that late.
It's nasty.
Right? So,
you're not sleeping. You just feel gross.
So one of the hacks is sleep when you're tired. Like the bottom line is, you know when you're practicing, you know when you're competing. So just make sure you have food, because you might be hungry when nothing's open. But other than that, like I would go to Switzerland on a Thursday, come home on a Monday. It didn't even matter, because what I realized is like, wait, well, practice is only this time to this time, and the race is only this time to this time. Like I could stay on my own sleep schedule mostly, and just make sure that I'm up for those times I need to go do my thing, and then duck out.
Yeah.
And it worked.
Go to sleep from 3 to noon.
Everyone I've said this problem to never has had that answer.
You know why? Because them motherfuckers didn't go do what we did. I did.
Yeah.
Sorry, I got one beer and I'm like dropping MFers.
Yeah, that's what I like. Yeah, that's what I want.
Anyways,
Dale.
Well, Dale.
I mean, that's
Dale himself.
It is funny because it's like just the act of resting. You know, like it's like you're not sleeping, but you're resting, and it's like, and it could be so frustrating. But the idea of
I have to sleep.
You're still gaining something.
You know, you could be under the bleachers at an event, and maybe the women are practicing, or maybe there's on hold. Like, go duck out.
Yeah.
Get your like, just because it's daylight doesn't mean you have to be awake, and just because it's night doesn't mean you have to sleep.
I like that.
The important thing is that you're ready to go when it's time to go, and that's it.
Yeah. Fucking, it's funny.
You have a schedule.
It's funny how simple the idea is, but it actually is like it's valid.
So that's 100%. All the kind of stuff that we do.
Yeah.
Working with somebody. So with a person like Dakota, or at least a situation like Dakota's situation, I'd want to know what's like. Maybe there's just something that is beyond, like, not even psychology. It's just something basic, like you've been sleeping crappy and you're eating crappy, or maybe you're
stressed on something.
Maybe mom's sick.
Yeah.
You know, maybe stranger things, right? Like all kinds of stuff. Maybe your godfather died or something. Like, so I just want to know, like, what's going on in your world, right?
Yeah.
Wife about to have a baby. Like, all these things can exacerbate. You know, so like you might have a tendency to worry. You might have a tendency to be cautious, or whatever it might be, right? Based on the personality assessment. But certain things get out of whack, then that can exacerbate that tendency.
Yeah.
So, right. So now you're not just like worried, you're anxious, right? Now you're not scared, you're debilitated. Mm-hmm. See what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. And so I'd want to know just like what's going on in this person's life that, you know, why now?
Yeah.
Like, why are we feeling this now?
Yeah.
Right.
I think his work through, if I remember correctly, was to somehow overcome that fear and prove himself wrong. Mm-hmm. And he did that like once or twice, and then he would reference that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that would be like, thing. Hey, you are wrong. Right. Do not believe yourself. Right. Do not believe these thoughts.
So then you can look. Right. So that's positive self-talk. He's already practicing. So he looked for evidence in the past. He's like, okay, Dakota, shut up. But you know, metaphorically he did that. Yeah. He's like, wait, I've done this before, right? And so he can go to that place where, okay, well, did you do this before? Have you done something like this before? By the way, that's exposure. Yeah. Right? So I'm deathly afraid of snakes, and I love mountain biking. And guess what? There's some snakes in San Diego, right?
Yeah.
So I could either not mountain bike, or I can learn to be more okay with my fear of snakes. Yeah. Did you hear what I said? Be more okay with my fear. Yeah. I didn't say get over it. And then the more I become okay with my fear, the less scared I get. Mm-hmm. That's the trick. Yeah. A lot of times we fight the feeling. But he did something very smart. He exposed himself to the stimulus mentally, visually in his head, and then he backed it up with self-talk. Like, no, that's wrong. That's not true. Boom.
Mm-hmm.
I play that trick too. I remember Ohio Dreams. Remember that place, Ohio Dreams?
Skate park.
It was a skate park. It was like a budget Woodward.
Yeah.
It was in Ohio, and it had that water slide thing.
I never went there.
Oh, that thing was awesome. Anyway, so I wanted to go because I wanted to ride the water slide, but I went, took my kid. He was like 10 or 11, and I met my other buddy. And, it had been a while since I took my 20th.
Still a thing.
Yeah. Boom. Look at that. I love that there's this instant gratification piece. Yeah, it's probably. Anyways, so I took my son, and he's like, "Can you hit those jumps?" I'm like, "Oh." I'm like, "Yeah."
Is it free ride?
Yeah.
This mountain
but
bike
no,
free ride?
but there was some big dirt jumps in the woods. I'm like, "Yeah." He's like, and he kind of called me out a little bit, 10-year-old kid, and I still want to be like the dad who can. But I was scared because it'd been a minute since I
was wondering if you're like stoked to show him or if you're.
No, I was stoked to show him, but at the same time, like it had been a few years since I've hit a pro section.
Yeah.
And now I'm at like legit dirt trails in the woods. I'm like, okay. And then this fool's watching, and it's like, and then my friend's sons were watching, but it was really cool though.
Like you want to show them jump,
but I had all those things, right? I had all those things that I had like back in the day, like a little bit of nerves, fear, doubt, but I went right back into those like, okay, I'm behind the gate, took my deep breaths, and I rolled in. And every time I rolled in, the one thing I said to myself to settle myself was, I'm doing this. And that calmed me down enough to hit the preset and then hit the big section. It wasn't that pretty, but I got through it a few times, and it's like, cool.
Your son was probably like, that's awesome.
Right. So he was like, whatever. After the fact. And he's like, let's go to the slide.
I'm looking
you should be more impressed right now.
I just risked myself.
Yeah. But so it sounds like that. So Dakota's worked through. So that, and it's great that he had the wherewithal to like recognize it and do it. Right. So that's another thing that psychologists teach is called thought stopping. Right. So thought stopping is like, no, that, right? I used to go look at the moto boards. See, one of the things BMX racers do is they love to see who's in their race and where they are on the gate. And like, so you'll hear some people come back like, oh man, you probably remember this as a kid.
Oh yeah.
Especially the dads were even worse. Oh, you really got to get a good gate because you got Bubba next to you. It's like, thanks, Dad. But like, don't you?
You get in a bad mode, you're like, fuck.
But
there's like 4 guys that can beat me, and now they only taking 4.
But isn't the job to get a good gate regardless of
no matter what,
right? It's, so it's this like we make up these stories.
I feel like racing, I was the psychology thing fucked me over because I was like a 5th place mains, 6th place, 4th, 5th, 6th. But
in the mains, that's good.
Yeah, I was like always nag.
Where you're on track, Phantom on track.
Yeah. But I don't
know what that is.
Oh, dude.
There was these
Donovan Long's team.
There was these kids I couldn't beat, and I couldn't beat them. If they were in my gate, I didn't beat them. But then there was the kids that I beat every time.
Right,
and
you had it in your head.
Those guys are faster. Yes,
those guys are faster. I'm faster than them.
It was almost like I let them beat.
Those are beliefs.
Yeah,
those are beliefs.
At it was like I let.
And you always live up to your beliefs.
In the whole fucking country, there's these 4 guys. I should have just been like, I can beat them, because I was talking to Chad Hurley about that, and he was the same as me at one point, like, nag 6, kind of middle of the pack main guy. And one day his dad said, I'm not taking you to these to keep getting 5th, 6th place. And he's like, dang. And I looked at my dad. My dad was in the car. I said, Dad, why didn't you say that to me? Just messing with him though. But Chad changed his mindset and became, national number 3. Which is like nag 1 by far.
It's so funny because I used to see Chad's dad at the track and he was so quiet.
He's the nicest guy ever.
I know. That's when you said that. I'm like, he said.
Oh, that? Because he was like, Chad, like you can win. Like,
that's
you know what I mean?
Right. You can do. Right.
Because my dad probably saw me and was like, he's having fun.
Right.
But maybe someone was like, you can beat those kids there's 4 kids in the country that beat you. That's it. Why do they beat you?
Yeah.
You're probably just as fast as them. Like, get in there.
Yeah.
If they're on the gate, they're beating me.
So you always live up to your beliefs.
That's a huge example of that.
So when you walk up to that motorboard and you're like, oh man, Chad's in 1, Nick's in 3, and I'm in 2. I'm gonna get sandwiched, right?
Yeah.
That's a whole thing, right?
You make that up so fast.
One of the tricks you can do is train yourself to only see what you want to see or need to see. And then another thing is, so one of my thought stopping techniques was I would just, it sounds ridiculous, but I would just, if I got something in my head that I didn't like, I would just literally just shake it out like a wet dog. Like go, I still do it to this day. But it does help. It helps scramble it and helps give me something. You see that I snap a lot. Even when I'm in session with somebody, I'll snap or I'll do something like that. Just so like there's this like that little bit of a pattern interrupt. So they can associate that thing or that change with that sound. Yeah. When you Sam Willoughby, amazing, like one of the goats. But he had this thing where he would do this before he got on the gate. I loved it. But I knew what he was doing. It's like there's like something to that where there's like, because there's a lot of energy before you're about to drop in to do your thing. Good, bad, or indifferent. But that was like something to kind of just release it in just a way and manage himself.
Do you think he even knew he was doing it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I don't know what he was saying to himself or what that was about. But my point is like there's ways to kind of to repattern and neurologically get yourself in the right space.
When Daniel Dares was winning everything, he had this thing that would like give you the chills. I can't even remember what he would do, but he would just, it was like no one was there and he'd do the same thing every time. I don't remember. It was kind of just like this, like he would just like get in the zone. You could tell like he didn't care who was looking. It was like he like hypnotized himself, and then he never fucked up. It was just like
it's weird because like Stevie Churchill, he always had like he would like tap his grips and then wipe them.
Yeah.
Tap grips,
so everyone's got a
wipe,
thing, right?
Tap grips, wipe.
Yeah.
And it was, and it's like even for me,
when you get in your head,
mentally, it's like I would, like if I was trying something and I went around a crack one time and then I was like, I got close. I'd be like, all right, that crack.
Oh, yeah.
Like that, like there's
crazy
weird
stuff like
weird
that.
little things like that.
It's fine, but it's so annoying.
Like I say.
Oh, yeah. You don't go over the crack. You're like, motherfucker. Like,
you keep adding. There's a Simpsons episode on that where he's bowling a 300. Or is it King of the Hill or something?
Yeah.
And he, like, by the, the last round, he has, like, zip up. Oh, it was Malcolm in the middle. Zip up his zipper. Like, has to eat a nacho. He had, like, 20 of this.
He kept adding to it.
And I remember being a little kid, like, I fuck with that. I know what you're going through.
Yeah. So that's part of the work, too, is helping the client develop a ritual. I say ritual over routine because ritual, there's meaning to it. Right.
Yeah.
And working with that meaning.
Yeah.
And anyways.
Ritual over routine.
Not like lucky underwear, but like things that actually
that are going to and use it. So when I take my time,
seems almost better to drop
things.
The bullshit, the fake stuff that you've like accumulated, right? Like
you
lucky
don't
underwear.
need to keep everything. Yeah, you don't need to keep that.
Just seems like
it might be fun, but
the more of it, the more you're just adding to your collection of bullshit.
So there's it. Does it work for you or does it serve you?
Yeah.
And I want what you're doing to serve you.
Yeah.
I have this thing where almost every year around my birthday, I'm hurt or I get hurt right around it. Like broke my femur the night of my birthday.
Dang.
Right now I'm hurt. Last year my back was April 19th.
Dang. Happy birthday.
So do you think that that's something I built in my head, like a curse, or do you think it's
I don't think it's a curse.
Just the time of year that I get hurt?
I think there's
I think there's been like 1 year where I was healthy and I didn't ride for like 2 weeks.
So disclaimer.
I tried to not ride around my birthday.
Full disclaimer, okay? This has anything to do with psychology, but I do think, so there's like this blanket theory, Buddhism and, like energy. And I do think we are plugged into this thing, the world. And this is like my personal, I do think we are plugged into this thing. And what you're saying resonates because I have found, and if you think about as a species, we tend to do things annually, right? Holidays, Christmas, birthdays. So we develop these natural patterns anyway, right? And I would suspect that based on that energy and these natural patterns we develop, that knowingly or unknowingly, consciously or unconsciously, we might be satisfying that pattern or working toward fulfillment of that pattern, even though we're not aware of it. And it's so funny, like even with my wife, I've been married 22 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. But it's so weird. Like I remember having like some, we've been married 22 years. We have 2 kids. So we've gone at it, like argument wise. And it's so funny if I'm conscious of it. Like I was like, okay, it's February. It's about that time. Like I should probably, but I'm super sensitive to it. But there's something that happens where it's like, whoa, like how is it that we're here and we're kind of like annoyed with each other again. I don't know what that's about. I think that's like beyond me, but there's a
seasonal,
but there's a piece of me that thinks that, like I said, I think we are plugged into this thing. And I think there is something that, some kind of binding agent that binds us together as humans and with the world. And I think it doesn't surprise me that like you have these kind of anniversaries of sorts that something seems to happen. But that said, it doesn't mean that the pattern, you can't break the pattern.
See, I think
that's what I thought though, and I was like, it's just a curse. Like I think I told my dad or something. He's like, you're crazy. Like it's just like you just stop thinking that you're making it, you're manifesting it. So I'm like, you're right. So I put that in my head, and it just keeps happening.
I think.
So I think
in your instance, I think that it's your birthday's in April, winter. People are in town. You're working on projects. Weather.
I always feel really good.
And exactly. Like
it's weird.
and
that's another weird thing. It's like around April, or before I get hurt, it's I always feel so fucking good. Yeah. And then I get like a weird injury.
But the wife thing, I feel like that's like peaks and valleys. Like you have highs, and then after you have that high, whatever it may be, it's
so am I going to get hurt every April?
There's a resolution
for the rest of my life.
No, you're not.
I don't think so.
I'm just not going to ride in April ever.
You know what? I fell twice in like normal real life recently, which was super weird.
What's not real life falling?
Like not bike rides. Like
you just fell off the curb?
No.
Like
bike rides. Not on bike rides. Yeah, like normally I fall off of bikes, and I fell in I tripped
in the garage or something.
Yeah, and I'm like, this is fucking weird.
April.
I laughed both times.
April. Everyone's gotta be careful in April.
Well,
look
one
at
time.
My finger.
Yeah, look at that fucking thing.
That just happened. I didn't even fall.
Dislocated or something?
Look at mine. Look at mine. I didn't even.
Someone told me that
going on here?
Like that the tendon might have pulled away from.
Oh, that just came out of nowhere.
So I was snowboarding and I didn't fall, but I just did a carve and was dragging my hand and pow.
Oh, you dislocated that thing or broke it, because that's what mine is. But our pinkies look exactly the same.
Yours?
Anyways,
I broke
just
it.
Look a little double
but it is weird.
Yeah.
When you kind of get dealt with, and it's not from
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
The first one I deserved. I was standing on top of the trash can in socks with flip flops, holding on nothing, jumping on it. And I'm like, you don't think you could fall? I just don't think. I don't think I could fall. And I fell, literally dislocating my shoulder on the wall as I fell down, because I put my arm out. Yeah, like last week.
You had no context for falling that way. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was impossible.
There was no baseline.
Because you need to push your cycling down.
Oh, I thought you were out there like jumping up.
That actually got me thinking of something. So if we could revisit riders retiring.
Yeah.
So actually, it's funny that Greg called, but. And it got me thinking of stupid injuries. So one of the dumbest injuries I've ever had was on my foot. And it was from surfing. Like the board's wrapped up. I'm sitting here, and then the water comes in and kind of just it's a fish. And it pushed the bottom of my board on the top of my foot and just scraped the crap out of it. And it just like when you look down and you see white, you don't even see red. Yeah, it hurt. Anyways, the reason why I'm bringing that up with retirement, surfing was a great rebound sport for me.
Yeah.
So I strongly recommend another activity that one can get into.
To not have to focus on.
Well, because I wanted to really learn how to surf and be good and blah, blah, blah. So I would go probably 2007-ish, 8-ish, 9-ish. I was I didn't ride for a little bit. I mean, I always went to the track or whatever, but my main thing was surfing. I had to learn how to surf, but I think that was very helpful in helping me break away in a healthy way and kind of come back.
I think, the people that you find are successful, I feel like the one that we talk about the most is like Miron. He went to woodworking and he is a woodworker as he was a rider. Exactly.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Right.
Obsessive and
transfer the love.
Yeah. And that style. And when we've talked about this previously, it's like talking to Corey Martinez, it's like, dude, you are so talented and you have all the skill and world knowledge to focus into something. You just have to find what that is.
Yeah.
And I think that's super, but it's just hard for dudes to find it.
It is
because the reward doesn't come.
Well, so one of the hard pills to swallow is you may not find anything that is as fulfilling as what the other thing was.
That. Yeah.
But here's the thing. That is okay. Right? And it's literally just changing that rule.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be. And by the way, it doesn't change that this great, amazing thing happened. Dude, even Mike Tyson's one of the best examples of that. You root for that dude.
Yeah.
Anytime you see Mike Tyson, you love him immediately.
Yeah.
But he's done some pretty foul things.
That's what I was going to say, with his torrid past.
Yeah, like he's had a rough go, right? But for whatever reason, it's like because he's still the dude that knocked a fool out in under a minute, and he's still the dude that for champ. Now he's the dude that like sings the Phil Collins song,
and now he's got a fight soon coming.
But you root for him, right? There's something about him that's like endearing, right? But that
he's a flawed human being, right? And he's admitted those faults.
But it's come right.
Yeah.
If you can allow it to come back, it can in ways you wouldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
Right. And he's got his thing, so he's kind of like a side. I don't say a sideshow, but he's kind of like bit of a spectacle.
Yeah.
But he owns it.
Yeah.
Right. He realizes he's actually a little bit funny. He owns that.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Like, so there's all that stuff. But so for me, it was surfing. I don't surf anymore. I'm like mountain bike nerd.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I am a mountain bike nerd.
Mm-hmm.
It's cool. I love it.
Yeah.
And
that's like the perfect one for you because you were a bike rider your whole life.
Yeah, it works out really well.
Surfing works. I was like,
yeah. No, but the thing with surfing too, though, is like I was only going to get so good, and I'm like, I think I'm good with where I'm at. Like I can pop up and surf.
Surfing's hard too because as a bike rider, you can go to the track or the skate park and do it every day. Surfing, you go sometimes and you're like, God, I wish I did something else. Yeah. I'm not going to have that much fun. Like my girl's like, just enjoy the ocean. It's so fun being here. I'm like. No, it's not.
I hate that.
Like I've been waiting with my hands under my arm.
Yeah, I want to surf.
Yeah,
I want to do this. Like I could go.
I was equated that. Imagine if you went to the skate park and the quarters just weren't there.
Oh, for sure.
Right.
You're just like, man, the fucking park's not here today.
But even when it's there,
like what the fuck?
Even when
it
it's
really
there,
makes you appreciate BMX when you start surfing.
Yeah. Even when it's there, it's different every time.
Yeah.
Because reading the water for me,
that's the hardest thing to learn.
Right. Because the athletic side of like, okay, I can paddle and stand up, but reading the water, it's like I'm going right when it's a left. I'm going left when it's a right.
Where that wave's going to appear if you're in the right.
Like you could be there and you're in the perfect spot. It's like, dude, you're like 2 feet from me. How is that spot perfect in the water?
The good surfers who are born into it, they go, you just watch them like, I didn't even see a fucking wave. The ocean was flat and they went boom, bam. They just keep doing it because they can see that shit.
But it's like if I go to the skate park, I'm looking at it a whole lot different than you are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, that's just right because of the.
That's the thing. I'm like, why don't you ride? Anyone who surfs, if I've asked, like, why don't we just go to the skate park? It's perfect every time. They go to the skate park, they're like, this isn't fun. Like, I'm not looking at it like you. Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, they look at the ocean.
I mean,
like,
I guess you can draw the line between street and because sometimes fucking there's a car in the way or there's construction or you get kicked out. It's like it's kind of the same way as that, but
street's closer to surfing than a perfect skate park.
You gotta. I only took a few notes on my phone, but one of the and this is on the topic. But you said pick habits that are sustainable.
Yeah.
What do you? I mean, I get it, but can you elaborate?
Yeah, so I think I was speaking in the context of health and wellness.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I think a lot of times people kind of, I'm going to work out every day.
Yeah.
No, you're not.
Yeah.
You're not. Yeah. Right. And so again, you give yourself a narrow window to succeed. You only have a narrow window to make it happen.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So working out every day is a very narrow window. So if you fall outside of that, your motivation, like your bar of failure is super high. I'm not saying have low standards, but what I'm saying is give yourself many ways to get to Rome, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like you might not, especially if you work or even as a pro racer, like you have a kid, like there's limits, right, on you. So you want to do something that you can kind of keep doing, because what I do know about life is it's an iterative process. And success is an iterative process.
What does that mean?
Doing things over and over again.
Okay, all right.
Right? So I don't know. Well, you used to race, but I mean, you've practiced a trick. Like, how long does it take to get a trick down to where you don't have to think about getting the trick? Like, can you even count?
Yeah, it could be forever or something.
It could be forever.
Some things you never get every try.
Right. So
sometimes a nose long bar.
Right. So when people are like, basics. So when they want to make a change in their life, great, cool. So let's go about it in a way that's sustainable. Not, okay, I'm not going to eat for 30 days.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Or that might work for 30 days.
An extreme diet.
Right. So that might work for 30 days.
Yeah.
I said, but you want to build a foundation here.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I can get on the gate at a track and like I still know how to get a gate. my back might not remember, but I do. Yeah. Like I can do that. But that's countless times of doing it over and over and over. I mentioned the golf swing. Countless times of Tiger or Rory or whomever like swinging that club. Yeah. It's an iterative process. Success done well is kind of boring.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's the career job.
Well, I mean, but
and stuff like that.
But again, so as cool as the lifestyle of bikes and riding was, even that can be a grind.
Yeah.
And we have a thread where it's like a bunch of us old guys, older pros talking, and we can't like all the work that goes into being a pro now on top of the actual riding. Like having your phone everywhere and keeping track of everything and creating some kind of compelling story so that it's of interest and that sucks to me.
Yeah.
To me. But if that's the game you're playing, then how can you do that in a sustainable way?
Is there stuff that you learned from being a pro? I mean, that carried into what you do now on a level that you like didn't expect.
Totally. That's something I kind of knew would happen, which was cool. So I kind of went and it's like, okay, because like the one thing with psychologists, they're not taught business because they're taught psychology, but there is a business to running, to getting clients and to doing. So from that standpoint, it was great. And the fact that I was a little bit older when I was interviewing for those intern positions, because I went back to school at like 34 and I had all this other experience. It was just, I was getting the paid internships because I was, it was a married couple looking at me working with them was a whole lot different than looking at a 25-year-old.
Yeah.
So there was just certain things, but as far as like,
I could imagine you going into any of those interviews being remotely scared. Your fear level would have been like 0.
No.
Yeah.
No. It was, the only thing was just like, I want this.
Like a 25-year-old would be like, oh my God, I want this internship so bad and so awkward and so crappy. And it's like,
Yeah. So, but I definitely, I did take that racing mentality and like holding myself to a standard of like, all right, like what does a AA psychologist look like? What does a pro psychologist? Yeah. I mean, I didn't know, but that was just my mindset. It's like, all right, well, if I were to be a world champion psychologist, what does that look like? A top psychologist, so that's kind of, I modeled myself, or at least shot for that. I don't know if I became that or I'm becoming that, but I shot for that. And I think that gave me a really good edge in the marketplace, even outside of like plugging myself back into my sport, but just kind of the way I would put myself out there, the way I showed up in interviews, the way, just I don't want to say, because everyone that I worked with and have worked with and they were professional too, but I think it just, I just came off a little bit sharper and crisper in certain areas, and that helped a little bit.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
One thing we didn't touch on is we talked about a lot of the racer work that you did, but you have worked with freestyle people.
Yeah.
You mentioned one name earlier, one which we're going to bleep out. Yeah. But there was another,
Several.
and that was I'm sure there is. There's a lot that I don't know, but there was one rider that it was at a major event, and I had never, I think it was kind of the first time that I heard of somebody in our world working with a sports psychologist, and that person had a really great result at that event. And that was a great week. I'm sure it was. Yeah. I'm sure it had to be kind of magical to
super validating.
And another thing is that person was on the cusp of winning that event so many years in a row, and the first time you worked with that person, they won. And it was like, whoa, was just some shit that person needed to figure out to win, because that person always had the ability.
So that was a great week, and that's because it was a perfect storm. It was a perfect storm now that I think about it, because not only was I was the best equipped, like professionally, to work with this person because of my obvious background, but even going, like, remember, I had competed in X Games too. Mm-hmm. I also recognize that it's also a show too, right? So there's other things like, so I was working with him on his game plan and his stuff and getting him settled. That's the word I'll use, so that he could go do his thing.
Yeah.
But I also knew in the background that I only needed to do so much because I had the feeling that he was like, everyone wanted him to win anyway because of, well, I'm just going to be real, because it's the X Games and we have a joke.
Yeah.
It's called
It's a TV show.
Yeah, it's a TV show.
Yeah.
So they want the good story.
Yeah.
So it's nice when the hometown hero wins.
Yeah.
So all he had to do was really not mess up.
Yeah.
And the course was super perfect for him.
So
there's a lot of beautiful things.
So there was all
that
these
happened.
little things. So all I had to do was get him in a place.
But if he didn't have you though, he would have fucking blew it like he'd done other years, like slip a pedal or something stupid. So you were that.
We may have to take out the hometown bit.
Yeah,
because
whatever. They got to figure it out.
But yeah.
The reason why I say that was you though.
Yeah. But the reason why I say that is because
you.
at the X Games, they want, when I was racing, they wanted Robbie Miranda to win.
Mm-hmm.
They did not want a racer to win. They wanted a guy they wanted a Neil Wood, they wanted a Robbie Miranda, they wanted a Brian Foster to win, and I get that.
Yeah.
And so I'm just a quick little story because I got to get off my chest. Not many people know, so I'm gonna let you know under the hood.
Do it.
So Woodward West X Games. We're in practice.
Track was sick.
It was sick. And you came out of the gate, and right out of the gate there was no pedal. You just you literally, the gate dropped and you had to hop. You had to hop into a thing. Well, the racers figured out I can just manual. I can just drop my back wheel and pump. Mm-hmm. And then later that evening, after the first round of practice, we're up there and we see people fixing the track. And they're basically they had pickaxes taking it to the...
Really?
Yep.
Trenching it out, right?
Trenching it out so that you couldn't do that.
So then what'd you have to do?
So you just had to pop out. So you couldn't roll out of the gate. You couldn't drop your back wheel. So basically,
everyone had the same gate basically.
So so the gate dropped like this, and then there was a drop and then a ledge. Okay. So you had to kind of you couldn't just pedal out. You had to hop over it.
So it was almost like a pump.
Because it was dirt, it was still mushy, but you could still kind of drop your back wheel manual and pump down it. But then they boogered it up later that evening. Yeah.
Funny.
Yeah. And then I literally overheard one of the Woodward people say, "We don't want those big, strong guys to win."
No.
Yeah. So
there
anyways,
you go, though. You learned right there, though, what the show was. You
right?
learned what the show was.
That's fine. I mean, I signed up for this, right?
Yeah.
I signed up for it, and I knew what kind of racer I was.
I mean, you heard the Magoo podcast. He talked about how they wanted to equalize that or something in some sense. I mean, he said
and they did,
and they did.
They did. I mean, the Vans Triple Crown was different though, in that. I mean,
is that what I'm mixing up?
So Vans Triple Crown then became that was the reason it became an X Games
thing.
Bad. So we had Triple Crown for 2 or 3 years, and then it became an X Games event for 3 years.
So it was the X Games that they did that.
It was the X Games, but they were very specific. With, when he said that, I'm like, oh, that's kind of not cool. But the one thing is, I like to put things in my file cabinet.
Yeah.
I don't know when I'll use that file, but it's in the file cabinet.
Yeah.
So enter X Games, where the rider that I work with won.
Imagine if that happened in modern. There was hey, there's this obstacle and somebody is killing it off of this, or a couple of people are killing it off of this, but we don't think it favors them too much, so we're just going to change it after the practice.
Well, I mean, the
if
excuse,
they did that
the excuse was
be crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure the excuse was we're just working on the track, right?
Yeah,
we're fixing the jump or whatever, but it wasn't meant to be rolled. Whatever.
Yeah.
But the truth is,
he made it like that.
The truth is, if Neil and Robbie and the Falcon were doing it, you guys would be fine with that. If they were smoking people to the first turn, right?
Exactly.
You just would be.
Yeah.
So, but that's fine. Goes in the file cabinet. Whatever. I'm in the sandbox. Everyone plays differently. Let's keep going. Right? Goes in the file cabinet.
Yeah.
But, that was 2003 or 4 or something stupid like that. It's cool. Go to X Games a decade later. It's I'm pulling that out the file cabinet. I seem to recall this is the playbook. Mm-hmm. And it worked out great.
Yeah.
My rider won.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, And he did it. He did it on his own.
Of course.
But I knew he had to give himself the opportunity to do it.
Yeah.
Right? But everything was set up for him.
Yeah.
Course was perfect.
And when you work with somebody like that, is how many months leading in do you?
So that was interesting. That was almost like a triage of sorts, because it was like when they called, it was like his sponsor and his other sponsor. It was funny because I didn't realize he was that baller of a dude.
Yeah.
Like in that world. I'm like, dang, like normally the rider calls me.
Yeah, yeah.
But it was like so-and-so and so-and-so. And anyways, so I was like, well, I'm kind of late. I was like, I can, but we're going to really have to get at it. And,
so it was only a few months.
It was only like a few weeks. It was only like, okay, well, let's hop to it. Boom, 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 boom.
I'm sure if you're dedicated in that, but it was the 11th hour.
But like I said, it was the perfect storm. Honestly, I knew I had enough, and I think he had enough trust because of my background, and he's a bit of an old soul.
Yeah,
and I thought so. I was like, okay, I found a way to get in, and we had enough of a good working relationship, and I knew the game.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, like he just needs to not mess up. Mm-hmm. Cool.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But that's been informative working with other freestylers as well, because
put it out there.
I'm going to put it out there. So we're all human, right? It's really hard to not be human when you are one. And I think that the game begins, the games are like, we're always playing the game. Mm-hmm. Not that we're always in competition, but the game's always on. So when riders are posting something, like I see very clearly that it seems like, and judges can push back on me if they want, but it seems like some riders are judged against themselves. Some riders are judged based on their improvement, and some riders are judged against others. Mm-hmm. And my intuition has been pretty good. I'm not gonna say as good, has been pretty good about knowing which riders get that type of favor or that kind of eye. Mm-hmm. And then helping that rider maximize how that game
fitting
is
the
played.
Story almost, yeah.
That's right.
Maybe they almost just need to hear it. Like,
how that game is played. It's like, so...
Well, I mean, you think about it in a sense, like the qualifiers and all that stuff. They have qualifiers, semifinals, and finals, and how you play your run and what you debut and what you do and what you hold back and all that stuff. It is a fucking game.
It is.
And because if you do your finals run in qualifying, even if it's the first place run, it's not going to get scored as a first place run.
Do it over and over again.
And they're not going to give you that. So you have to hold back. And you take that, and this is just illustration for people listening, is that you take that idea and you chop it up into many pieces and many variables, and that's what you have when it comes to judging.
I will also say that the riders I've worked with, they've had riding coaches too to help them play that game as well.
Yeah.
So and we've were in the most successful situation we've had, that I've had with that. Like we've all been working together and very aware of it, and it's integrative. Yeah. I'll put it that way. So it's not like I'm this mastermind freestyle whisperer.
It's they're discussing what to do. You discuss how to get yourself in the right place.
But there's still a headspace for that and all that other stuff. So
do you have any involvement with the Olympics coming up?
Nope. This is the first time, actually.
Zero.
This is the first time. I don't have any dogs in the races at all. So this is the first time, which is actually, I'm pretty good with it. A lot of my clients...
You're okay with it?
Yeah, I really am. I really am.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's you.
Yeah. Well...
Keep going.
Yeah.
So I'm still...
You're not great. You're not great with it, but you're okay with it.
No, I'm actually... I'm actually like really okay with it.
Yeah.
Really okay with it? All right.
What I wouldn't be okay with is feels like, oh, let's go to the Olympics and buy a ticket and sit in the stands and watch. Like, no. I do like to be part of it.
Dye your hair green.
Yeah, I don't have to. Yeah. No, but I do like to be part of it. I like the under the hood. Like, as you know, I'm not trying to be a fan necessarily.
Yeah.
Like, I'm a participant.
Yeah.
I participate in life. Like, and I'm a fan of things, but and that's another thing that I'm pretty clear on when we when we go to a show, it's like, are we tourists here or like we gonna go do the thing? Mm-hmm. You know? And candidly, I was a bit of a tourist my first Olympics. Can be a lot.
I'm sure.
And so I was like a little bit, and I, you know, growing as a professional, like there was a piece where it's like, you know, but the other times it was like, okay, like this is what we're here for. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so no, most of my athlete clients are mountain bikers.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
That do racing or freestyle?
So downhill, enduro.
Okay.
Yeah. Downhill and enduro. Mm-hmm. No cross country yet. And then, downhill and enduro has been the things the last few years. So
yeah.
What is enduro?
It's a series of downhills. so not just one type. So they're timed. So there's like stages. It's a stage race. So there'll be 4 tracks, but the difference is they have to ride to the next stage, and then they're timed on the downs.
So they're not timed on that ride from stage to stage.
No. I think there's a window. I think there's a window of like when they have to be there for the next run, but they all get. Yeah. So it's apparently it's like more. It's actually, some would say it's like more the spirit of mountain biking in general. Like you kind of ride and then you ride down and then you ride to the next spot and then you ride down, and they're timed on the downs.
Okay.
Yeah. It's a big thing. Mm. Yeah.
You don't know anything about it?
I've heard of it, but I've never known what it was.
Yeah, so when people say like
just downhill mountain bike races.
But the downhill mountain bike racing, that's the pinnacle. Like that's the one that's the sexy one. That's the one that gets all the attention. So I've worked with.
But enduro is more like the spirit and the soul. Like
Enduro was getting there though.
Yeah.
Enduro was getting there, and then what happened was the TV contracts changed, and it kind of they put enduro on the back. Not the back burner, but it kind of became the stepchild.
Well, compared to downhill, it seems just a little more.
But it had its own following though, and then they kind of like everything. It got political and blah.
I'm sure, like you said, it sounds like the real mountain bikers would love it.
I mean, it's hard to film either way, but there was definitely like for the coverage there was and how they were running it, it had a good following, and it was. But this last year, it's like everyone's been complaining because it's been not great.
Yeah.
But anyways, that's their politics. But either way, someone comes to me, I'm going to help them get what they want. Yeah.
I think my last question, and it doesn't need to be the last question, but choosing your career or professional status over your mental health, and when to choose one over the other. If that does that make sense? Like your performance and your career. At the detriment of your mental health, and when to let go. Is there signs? Is there, like, I mean, when you said you were at the ABA Grands and you're thinking about the job.
Wasn't choosing.
That's an easy one.
That one wasn't even choosing it. But my mental health was not in the picture. It was just more like, I think I'm done.
Yeah.
Might not have been the safest thing to actually go around that lap because I wasn't focused, but
yeah.
But it wasn't like, I was having a nervous breakdown.
Exactly, yeah.
But I think the last Olympics, Simone Biles pulled out.
Yeah.
The Olympian, the gymnast, excuse me.
Yeah.
And she caught a lot of flack for that. Mm-hmm. I think there's a couple things going on. I think there are generational differences. Mm-hmm. So the way we experience the world and push through versus like my 19-year-old son, maybe. Mm-hmm. And then even our parents, right? Mm-hmm. You can call it, different. It's just different.
Don't be a pussy.
How we experience things.
That mentality.
Right.
Of like,
and don't get me wrong. Like, I think there's things we can learn looking down. And I think there's things we can learn looking up.
Mm-hmm. Hell yeah.
And vice versa, right? Like, I do think my son's generation can toughen up quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I also think our generation can like back off a little bit, right? Because we also helped contributed to them not being that tough because we're all up on their shit all the time, right?
Yeah.
So, just being fully accountable. That's my favorite thing, by the way. That's like my new shit. Radical acceptance, radical honesty, radical accountability.
Hell yeah.
Fair enough.
It's not mine, but I've those are the 3 things. So it's kind of like the
acceptance, accountability,
honesty,
and honesty. Yeah.
And being honest with yourself.
Yeah.
So when you're, I don't know if it's one or the other, then I'm going to always say choose your health. Mm-hmm. what gets hard is when there are legitimate obligations.
Yeah.
You know, what I don't know is was there a lawsuit that Simone Biles had to deal with because she didn't compete?
Yeah.
You know, was there, you know, are there people depending on her for XYZ checks? I don't know about her situation, but my point is it can get that way. Because there's people who, you know, they reach a certain level and then they come out of, you know, then all of a sudden family comes out of the woodwork and people start having their hands out, and then, you know, you start becoming this little mini economy, right? Or at least this mini status kind of magnet.
Your third uncle comes out.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm going to always say choose your health first.
Yeah. Is there, I mean, more in the sense of like, is there toxic, you know, like recognizing that, hey, I'm starting on a toxic path and I need to put myself, you know, like, I don't know.
Yeah. So no, I hear you. Yeah. So that's actually, I'm glad you asked that. I know it's the last question, but we might give it some time. So that's the whole.
We can have another Dales.
Yeah. So that's the whole thing with this more, better, happier.
Yeah.
Because when people would come to me, it's like it was like one of three things. They wanted more, which was like money, the contract, the corner office, the whatever. Right?
See, I think when I heard you say this, and I think my answer to more was time.
That too.
Yeah.
Right. Better, but it's something quantifiable and super measurable.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It's hard. Something hard. Right. Better. Right. Oh, I want to be faster. I want to be stronger. I want to fit into my tuxedo again. I want, you know, whatever that is. Okay, great. And then happier. It's like, well, I kind of have these things, but life's still kind of ho hum. It's just meh. My resume's good, but, you know.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, kind of sucks when your wife doesn't want to have sex with you and you haven't talked to your friends in 5 years.
Yeah.
Like, dude, that sucks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? I think it would be good to be happier, right?
Yeah.
But they were always asking for but it was always like, well, if I get this, then. If I get this, then, right? All I need is, but it's like, I don't know that, but there's a reason why you want more time. There's a reason why you want abs. There's a reason why you want your wife to have sex with you. Like, want her to want to, right? That's a big difference.
Yeah.
She's got to want to.
Yeah.
No, dude, but it's nice to be wanted. You know what I'm saying?
I get it.
I mean that, right? Yeah. So, and I'm not trying to be crass. It's relational, right? So, but there's reasons why you want that, right? I don't know what that is, but if you were to kind of make a Venn diagram of this, is like, I think people get into this work mode, right? And then it's like, okay, well, I'm just working. I'm just going to, you know, and then they get into this other mode because we all know the couch surfer, right? We all know the workaholic, and we all know the person who's says they're happy, but they don't have a pot to piss in.
Yeah.
Or, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I think it's about backing up and playing the whole game. I mentioned the sandbox. That's the sandbox. And it is a little bit messy, and it is a little bit that. But it's up to you to figure out what do you get once you get more time? What do you get once you get your abs? What do you get once you have your family back?
Yeah.
That's what you're after. And so, but it does require some things, actually. And it does require you becoming better at things or with yourself or more honest. And it does require hopefully it does require an attitude of sorts, right? So it's not just happy I'm on a roller coaster. I mean happier as in settled.
I think I always use the word satiated.
Right.
Where it's I'm satiated with the house that I'm in. I'm satiated with the car I own. I'm satiated with the things that I have and the time. And that is always I'm not saying my buckets are full either in any sense. I would assume that everybody listening could use more of something better or be happier.
I mean, we could just keep going. And the brain's also designed that way. We kind of get accustomed to
and that's human nature.
Right.
You'll see that. That was my first tap in a while.
Yeah.
I'm usually so good about avoiding it. And so that is human nature, is to always be looking at the next thing. And that's, but.
So there's specific challenges that, so when you ask this or that, it's look, recognize if what you care about is work and just say work and success.
Yeah.
And that's just your jam and you're going to stop at nothing to do it. There's probably, I'm not going to say there is, I'm not going to say there has to be, but there's probably a trade-off.
Yeah.
And if you're good with that, Far be it from me.
Yeah.
But chances are that you're going to pay that piper sooner or later. Right? That's another thing I say. Pay now or pay later, but either way you're going to pay. Mm-hmm. Right? And for me, right? And by the way, this was not like some academic work. This is like literally.
I just read the line, a psychologist's letters to his kid disguised as leadership.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's adorable.
Right? Like this is
like that's cool.
Like this is me flowing.
Yeah.
Like just what I've noticed based on BMX kid to BMX pro to psychologist dude to like a guy who talked to thousands of people over thousands of hours.
Yeah.
Like that's what I've noticed, and that's kind of how I see it. Mm-hmm. And there's some challenges if you want to make life different. Okay, well, like, what is your North Star? What are you doing? What is important to you? Who, what kind of rider are you? What kind of rider do you want to be?
Yeah.
What kind of person are you?
Do you want to be? Yeah.
What kind of person do you want to be? Right.
Yeah.
And recognizing that also comes with some dissatisfaction as well, right? Because doing the right thing doesn't always lead to
fantastic results
or just that warm, fuzzy feeling.
Yeah.
Like sometimes doing the right thing is saying no to someone you love, So it's like a little dose of life in there, right?
Yeah.
But it's also, there's some challenges in there and a lot of questions that if you're brave enough to answer honestly with yourself, like you end up with a little bit of a roadmap. Like, all right, like this is my roadmap for me.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm looking forward to it, and I appreciate you coming down, and I hopefully the people that listen, appreciate something a little bit different than we normally do. And I think
do
it's
too. Part of me is like thinking, oh man, I probably seem manic to them.
No,
right? I love talking about what I do.
No, that's the whole point, and it carries through, and having
that's probably one of the least I've ever talked on a podcast. Because it felt like I was listening to a podcast in a good way.
Yeah.
Those are the ones that I love.
Right. Well,
like when I can just take in information, and I think everybody could use someone like you on their side. Whether you want to be a better dad or a better bike rider, a better at your management job, whatever it is, like there's so much help with a professional like you.
Yeah.
And do you have a place where people can reach out to you if they do want to work with you?
My Instagram at real Dr. J Rich, or my website drjasonrichardson.com.
Cool, and those will be in the
description. In the description, and dude, I appreciate you coming down so much, and
super grateful. Thanks.
Mental health and bike riding and all that stuff and human nature.
Yes,
racer.
Todd Lyons might be a little pissed about that.
He doesn't count.
No, he is. He is. No, he is.
You're the first full racer, though.
No, he was a full racer before he started doing his side shows.
He did freestyle stuff. So
no, he was. But
freestyle side shows.
No, I'm not going to take this away from Todd.
The Turbo Toad was a racer. The Wild Man was a freestyle.
That's no, but he was a wild man at the races. So my bad. Todd, I'm sorry. You were the first racer.
No, you're the first full racer because technically there's a bunch of BMX racers.
That's true, Curly. That's true.
Fox.
Chris Moeller.
That's true.
Yeah.
Actually, I'm the first person who doesn't do any tricks.
There you go.
X-up.
I can do.
These guys X-up. There's officially been nobody that can't do any tricks on.
I can. Yeah.
No.
I can.
Amber.
I can man.
Amber Cannon can do tricks now.
Yeah, I can do tricks.
So there we go.
But
thank you, Jason. Dude, I appreciate you so much.
Appreciate it.
More, better, happier.
That's it.
Yeah.
Oh, can people get these books too?
Amazon. Amazon.
Yeah.
If you don't get
I don't have the audio yet, so that's.
Cool. I'm excited for a new book.
You can come over and record it. Right here.
I'll be here for like 3 days trying to read that book.
Thank you.
Understandable.
Me and your dog Curtis reading the book.
Hell yeah,
cool.
dude.
Thank you, man.
Yeah, thank you.
Dude, I just read that I'm
awesome.
in the middle. What is the point if there is no point? I mean, I get it. Like it's such like a, it's like a.
I love it because there's so many people that think that they need.